Hello there, the tiny monkey army. Yeah, that's a deep cut, isn't it? That's one for the old frogs. How the devil are we all? I am sensationally well, thank you for asking. I just had some little chicken nibbly bits. So I am satiated. I'm happy. I'm at one with the world. Rory by Tea is still a favourite image of mine. Yeah, no, it's very good. You're late, Kev. Your fucking great-great-granddad's ball sack is late. Amazon said they'd be next day delivery. I've been cheated. I don't know what the fuck any of that means. Anyway, we're going to be on with no justice for question time. Pretty straightforward. You know the drill. If fucking you... Oh, God almighty. I actually hate Twitter so much. Has it actually sent it? Has it sent it? I think it has. Brilliant. Fucking useless cunt. Elon Musk, fucking end your tenure as the head of Twitter, please. Yep. Oh. Anyway. Adolf Korbler. No, this is this image you see on screen is a delightful one of the ways you can tell that the Tory party is finished. They're trying to say that Nigel Farage is like Jumbly Crumblies, right? Like the Jimbly Jambles man, the jam Hitler, Jitler, if you will. So they put together this face mashup of the two of them, and I thought it was cursed enough to be one of my opening images. I thought it was appropriately horrific. So yeah, the Tory party are dead. They're dead. They're dead and buried. They're buried and they're dead. Which is what you need to do with dead people, really, is bury them, usually. Even if it's like Viking funeral under the sea. Nigel Farage with a beard. There must be pictures of him with a beard at some point. I think every man has gone through a beard phase, right? You know, the only men who've not gone through a beard phase are people who can't grow a beard properly. I'm saying it now, lads. I'm calling you out. The only reason you didn't have a beard phase is because your beard was shit. You've got bum fluff face. And you know what? That's fine. You do you. He had a stash arc. Well, yeah, I mean, he lived through the 80s. If you lived through the 80s and you didn't have a stash at some point, were you even really alive? I'm not sure. Hello there, Helena.
How are we, Kevin? Sorry we didn't manage to get through Laura Kay on Sunday night.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, sorry I'm slightly late as well. I've been harassing people fare dodging on the tube like a cunt.
We literally were just talking about that.
Look, what life are you leading where you feel the necessity to go around harassing? For those who don't know, our old friend Bobby J, Robert Jenrick, decided to hassle people on the tube. And frankly, look, I'm not saying this should have happened. I'm just saying there is a lot of knife crime on the tube. If you go around hassling people, you're playing Russian roulette with your own fucking guts, frankly.
I think, actually, it's a good point in chat from Jack. Thank you for the £5 donation.
Is that the Jack Miller?
It's the Jack Miller.
Well, you will address him appropriately then.
Yes, the Jack Miller, absolutely. What do I feel about the Luxembourg approach? Subsidised public transport completely. I mean, like fucking making every bus free in this country. Making every bus in this country would cost like £500 million. It's nothing. Yeah. It's literally peanuts in £1 trillion budget.
True. But you will have to upgrade the cleaning of the buses because I don't even want to get on buses. True. They're fucking gross. I'm
just taking the momentum from Sohan Mandani talking about free buses. But I mean, yeah, we were the Bobby Jenrick stuff was so fucking embarrassing, and it's just white collar crime never gets discussed. I'm so sick of just curtain twitchers being the singular pandered to demographic in our in our electorate, when some people care about corporate malfeasance.
Well, literally, this is the party that was handing out fucking massive public contracts worth tens of millions of pounds to their mate down the pub. And yet, Bobby J has decided to go after people trying to get away with not paying £3 on the tube.
Yeah, exactly.
For fuck's sake. Like, and they go, well, it's Sadiq Khan has ruined our brilliant city. And you're like, motherfucker, there was fare dodging before there was a tube. Have you heard of fucking riding the rails, you dopey bastards? People have been getting away with it for years. Now, that doesn't mean it's fine. Yes, it's a self-sustaining public entity in London, but also, just for anyone whinging about that, you're the only city in the country with a functioning fucking system to begin with, so don't even start with me, right? So, yeah, I understand them trying to crack down on fare dodging, but, like, trying to hector people, honestly, if you'd have been punched in the face, I don't think it'd have been undeserved. Stop being a wanker. Why have you got a fucking camera in my face? I'm just trying to get to tooting, you wanker.
Technically illegal, by the way. It's against the TfL rules to film fare dodging.
Is it? I didn't even know that.
Mm.
That's a bit odd. Surely they'd want help with fare dodging. No? I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. Don't be a wanker and hassle people on the way home or whatever. Just leave them the fuck alone, you prick. Like, that's the problem in London, really. God almighty. Anyway, and that's just another reason that the Tories are dead, along with the image that my people can see, but yours can't, which is of the mashup that Kemi Badenoch, fantastic Tory leader, I mean, really superb, put out of the mashup of Nigel Farage and Jeremy Corbyn as one image.
True, they are the same. They are the same.
They are literally the same. They are well, they're two sides of Hitler's backside. Yeah. They're the same. They're two cheeks of Hitler's backside, Farage and Corbyn, clearly. Yeah, I mean, they're just dead. They've got nothing. They've got absolutely nothing. They're a dead party, flailing pathetically, and I'm quite enjoying it, to be honest.
I mean, honestly, it's just, they're so unbelievably, like, permanently cooked now. I was looking at the crosstabs. I mentioned this on Novara. And the latest YouGov poll, remember the one that had the Lib Dems ahead of the Tories, right?
Yeah.
The Tories are in 5th place in the under 50s. Ooh. Half the population. Half the fucking population, they're in 5th.
Yeah. Mad shit. Mad shit. Also, did you see the delightful piece of racism from one of their bods this week? In response to Sadiq Khan wanting to potentially decriminalise marijuana. And it was one of the Tory MPs.
Oh, it was Neil O'Brien.
Neil O'Brien, yeah.
From Wixton, yeah. He's the MP for Wixton.
Yeah, so a literal Tory MP, not some rando chat, right? Sadiq Khan says cannabis should not be criminal, okay? Whatever you think of that, park your opinion for a second, okay? And notice that Sadiq Khan did not mention individuals at all, let alone any, say, demographics that those people may have. Neil O'Brien says, "This is wild, I know, but hear me out for a second. What if encouraging black guys in London to smoke more cannabis is in fact not the answer to our problems?"
Yeah, that guy's a giant racist. Like, he's just a massive fucking racist, right? He's really famous, like, internally within conservative circles, right? He commands a lot of presence internally within the Tories, but because he's just a backbencher, people don't really follow him outside of the internal Tory stuff. But yeah. I've had my tabs on him for a while. The man's a real fucking weapon. Real weapon.
You've added the word black in there, lad, and I don't know, because Sadiq Khan didn't say decriminalise for black people. If he had, that would have been a very weird thing, and I'm not entirely sure I would have been comfortable with that policy proposal. But he didn't. He just said for everybody. You've added the black bit in there. You cunt.
Yeah, he's just an absolute he's a real nasty piece of work.
True.
Then again, what you'd expect for someone who represents someone called Odeby. I'm like, yeah, that's
not real.
That's not real.
It's not real. That's from a J.K. Chesterton novel or something. It's just a made-up Victorian word. Rubbish. Also, I did just want to briefly mention. We'll get on to question time in a second. I don't know if you saw or have been following much of the Liverpool story thing.
We talked about it briefly, but yeah, I think a lot of the discourse that everyone else has done has been more concise than I would do, so I haven't really commented like a big piece myself.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. For those who don't know, car went into a crowd in Liverpool. Thankfully, everyone's alive. That's the kind of main thing of it. But then also the police said that it was a white guy in order to try and tamp down disinformation. Because every time anything happens, the right are out there saying Muslimic terrorism, burn down the hotels, raid the Gregs in solidarity or something. And as soon as they found out he was white, though, and this will be very familiar to Americans, right? When something bad happens and it's a white guy, it's always like father of two, family man, business owner, etc., right? And if it's a black guy, it's like he's the worst thing ever. We need to kill him and lynch him and burn his body and kill all his family and friends, right? And that's basically happened here.
It's the Peter Griffin, the colour chart meme.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Misunderstood loner, and then it gets browner and it's terrorist. Yeah. And they're doing that now with the guy. So again, remember, this guy was under suspicion of 11 counts of attempted murder at the time that this was taking place. Are you in a cannery of some kind?
Sorry, there was a can fell off my desk that I was drinking earlier today.
That's absolutely fine, but it kept rattling. It's all right. Yeah. Yes, so, he was under suspicion of 11 counts of attempted murder. It's now been downgraded because it seems that he didn't really mean to do this. Like, this wasn't a genuine attempt to try and kill people. He was just being a reckless wanker. So it's like grievous bodily harm and things like that. Dangerous driving, etc. And they're setting it up now that we should feel sorry for the guy, really. Because look at this. Liverpool suspect is a company director. Why is that the front page headline? Daily Mail. Also, look at the subtitle there. Parade driver held for attempted murder is father of three, irrelevant, who lives in a cul-de-sac. Why is the particular road? Why is the particular road he lives on? He lives on a main road. He lives here. He lives on a fucking dual carriageway. What difference does any of that make? It's so obvious manufacturing of consent. It's ridiculous. Like, this is fine, apparently. Imagine if this had been a Muslim. Even if it had been exactly the same. Let's say it's not a Muslim terrorist. It's just a Muslim who's a shit driver, right? Do you think they'd have mentioned he lived in a cul-de-sac?
Well, the media is the media needs to be torn down completely and rebuilt from the ground up, right? We need to fire everybody, make again Tesco gulag all of them, right? All of them. You'll get your job at Tesco and you'll enjoy it, right? And then start again from the beginning. And no private school people allowed. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. And even in the Mirror, which is supposedly more of a centrist or even vaguely social democratic.
Right, they support the left. They explicitly support the Labour Party.
Yes, and they've done that even when it's not been Keir Starmer's Labour Party as well. Back when it was vaguely a Labour Party. Anyway, so arrested driver is a lovely family man, and again mentioning that he's a father of three.
Good.
Why is this relevant to anything? Like a potential attempted murderer is what is the actual headline there, surely. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Literally, it's like remember the story of the American college athlete who got done for date raping somebody.
Oh yes. Oh come on, chat. I did loads of videos about this back in the day, and I've forgotten his fucking name.
Yeah, it was really your wheelhouse, wasn't it? I forgot the fucking name of the guy.
Yeah. But I do remember, and he was he was going to be like a swimmer or some shit. Yeah.
Yeah, literally, and the whole time, the media were just like, man's career is going to be over because of this one accusation. And genuinely wanted to make me go full Sudoku.
Yes.
It's the same shit.
Brock Turner, that was him. Brock Turner, yes. And this one's even better from the Mail, because now we shouldn't be angry at him. We should be grateful, I think. Liverpool parade suspect is ex-Royal Marine Commando, as if that's relevant to anything, who was dropping a friend off as a favour. Oh, he's a lovely guy then. Oh, really? We should be giving him a medal for being such an upstanding citizen.
It's just the fucking. Oh, I'm losing my mind. I mean, at least
we don't live in a real place. We just don't. No. This has to be a simulation of some kind, right?
Well, I mean, just to be fair, if I was going to suspect any demographic of being the most likely to commit vehicular manslaughter people used to be in the military.
Yeah, like that doesn't surprise me. But they're saying that as if that's a good thing, as if that means we should be sympathetic to him. Because apparently everyone who gets PTSD decides to drive into a crowd of people fast and nearly kill them. Drag a fucking baby's pram underneath his car down the fucking road. Apparently that's just fine, though. Come on, this is, like, again, the media are so bereft of any kind of morality or integrity. This is so obvious and naked. I mean, it's just propaganda at this point. It's just agitprop for their particular brand of shittery. It was the same, and it reminds me in a way of the kind of Corbyn type thing, right? Where the smears are exactly the fucking same. It's exactly the same false, obviously manufactured bullshit. It's narrative spinning all the time. Nothing's ever true or real. It's not honest journalism. It's just hack shit. Constantly.
Literally 100% of the time. No respite.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Anyway, shall we crack on with questions?
Let's do a bit of Q&A.
Which means I need to leave you, wonderful YouTube people. Let me grab you the link, Arena, to my Twitch. Here we go. Okay, I have popped the link to the Twitch in YouTube chat. YouTube chat, please click the link. Please come over to Twitch. They copyright cuck us potentially if we watch it on YouTube, so I will not be watching it there. Kev will be doing so because Kev is.
I live on the wild side.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You're a rogue element.
I'm a rebel.
You're a true rebel, and so you can watch there. It might get if you want to, but if you want to continue watching on my end as well, you can continue to do so by clicking the link in chat, twitch.tv/NoJusticeMTG. Please come and join in. Remember, if you have an Amazon Prime subscription to Amazon Prime, make sure that you link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, just as Popey has done. Thank you very much, Popey. I appreciate the Prime sub, which allows you a free subscription. You transfer money from Jeff Bezos to me or to Kevin, should you wish to do with Kevin, and get all the benefits of a sub at no cost to yourself. Right?
And because you're impoverishing a billionaire, it's praxis.
Literally praxis.
Yeah. It's doing socialism.
It's the first step towards fully automated luxury gay space communism.
Literally. It's. I think I'm right in saying, I'm not a Mao expert, but I think it is the first step in People's War.
Absolutely. In the very first quotation from Mao Zedong in the Little Red Book is, "You must subscribe to No Justice MTG or KF Logan 1875 with your Twitch Prime.
Let 1,000 subscriptions bloom." Yeah. Yeah, as Friends Ross says, I too have friends. Do I get to murder people? Yeah, that's basically, I think, what they're implying. Are you white enough, though? I don't know.
I mean, it depends if your friends have rusted first, though, I guess.
Yeah, true. Thank you, Woad Historian, for gifting subs to Maria and username Less Entity. Thank you.
Username Less Entity, I like that name a lot.
Yeah. It is good. And I don't know why I said it like I'd never heard them. They're in here every fucking night. It's mad. Sorry, go on.
Thank you, Burkus, for the £10 super chat on the YouTubes. Helena, I'm a new subscriber, and I must say that your political intelligence, wit, foul language, and truth are a breath of unpolluted air. Keep this up, please, or I'll sulk. Regards, Burkus. I appreciate the support. I will be doing all of those things. I will do all of those things. And to be fair, if you like foul language,
I was about to say,
and as well as wit and political intelligence.
No. Let's not oversell it. I've got the foul language down. If that's the biggest thing for you, come on over.
Absolutely. You will get additional foul language on the No Justice stream, which includes Kevin Logan, right? So you are in for a bounty of all of those things. So I'm going to be clicking end stream now on the YouTubes. I will see you all on the other side. Please click the Twitch link in chat, and I'll see you soon.
Cool. Hello there, No Justice Raiders. Hit the follow button and all that.
Subscribe to Kevin on YouTube. He puts out YouTube videos now.
I do occasionally, yes. But I'll have another depressive episode and stop doing that again.
Well, it's definitely well worth it, right? Because I think this month, at least the first month ever, I've got more money in AdSense revenue than from donations and money from donations and memberships, which is
that's pretty
wild.
Yeah, that is wild. But you're doing numbers, so that's fair, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been a great month so far.
Let's go. Let's go.
So thank you everyone who
And
tuned in and watched and donated.
And I'm so proud of you all, my young leftist friends. You're doing well on the up. Fucking Curtis is doing an actual like event thing. Like he's got a speaky event thing at some fucking free speech do. Very impressive young man. I swear to God.
Yes. And I was chairing a discussion for Greens organised today as well.
See, you're basically prime minister at this point, I think.
It's true, and I would not be here were it not for you giving me a platform. I wouldn't be here at all.
Well, you're going to make me tear up in a second. Thank you to James Holmes for gifting 5 memberships, and thank you Vogel for gifting a subscription to Medinov. No way it's pronounced that way, and I don't know why I turned into the fucking club singer for a second there. Medinov. Anyway. Question motherfucking time. Let's go.
Oil like a baby opera.
On the panel from the government, we have Heidi Alexander. She is the Secretary of State for Transport and has been for the past 6 months. Prior to that, she was a minister in the Justice Department. David Simmons has been Conservative MP for Ruislip Northwood.
He's a gnome. This man is a garden gnome. What the fuck? Where's his fishing rod? Come on now.
And Pinner since 2019. He's also Shadow Minister for Housing, Communities and Local Government. For the Liberal Democrats is Jess Brown-Fuller. She was elected last year as MP for Chichester, taking a seat the Conservatives had held for a century. She speaks for her party on hospitals and primary care. Ava Santina Evans is political editor of Politics Joe.
A vaguely left person. Cool.
She's in my stream title because I'm genuinely looking forward to a panelist on Question Time.
Yeah, she's all right. I quite like her. Yeah.
Oil
I mean,
like
she's
a baby
she's posh, but like everyone in the media is fucking posh. So.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the Politics Show really are on at least trying to speak to bread and butter issues, which is something you don't really get elsewhere.
True.
Obviously, Navarro, but you know what I mean. This,
Stop it.
On terms of the media, they get represented.
Did you see Bernie Sanders rinsing one of the hosts?
Ollie Dugmore.
Yeah, it was like, "Oh, I'm happy you're here." Bernie Sanders said, "I'm not happy to be here. I'm in London in a cave or whatever." Absolutely burned him.
The digital outlet, which aims at slightly younger people. She also co-hosts their podcast, which claims to report on British politics with a sense of humour. And the journalist, commentator, and also podcaster.
Now, I'm sort of interested in Tim Montgomery because he's a genuinely interesting guy, right? He's a Tory cunt, right? He was the founder of Conservative Home and was like one of the big sort of Tory bigwigs. But he's sort of switched over maybe a bit to reform.
Oh, officially.
And occasionally he comes up with like interesting and good takes. Occasionally.
I mean, he's one of those people who
rare.
I respect but hate, right?
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair, pithy summation. Yeah.
Like the main thing about him is you know he's not a grifter. He's not a grifter. He has political principles and he sticks to them, and he talks about them candidly and sincerely, and that is something you don't get elsewhere. Obviously, he founded Conservative Home, so you wouldn't really care about conservatism if you didn't. But he talks about conservatism in a way that a lot of conservatives haven't for the past kind of 45 years. He does talk about social problems and the idea of actually having a society, like a lot of other people don't. Even I think all of his prescriptions about how to solve those things are wrong. And he's also a really good barometer of where the Tories are because he's been such a kind of magnetic force in terms of bringing the conservative movement together. The fact that he's dumped the Tories for Reform UK shows you the writing is on the wall.
Well, exactly, yeah. Like he's a really good sort of barometer, I think, almost a canary in the mine, so to speak, of the Conservative Party. If he's leaving you're done. In the same way that, like, I don't know, if fucking Supertansky leaving the Labour Party, like, if you can't keep hold of those people, you're kind of fucked, really. Because you're not going to get average people in either, if you can't get your loyal people in.
Exactly. Also, I just want to say thank you.
Has done what? A fair number.
So thank you, Jack, for the 20 bits. Thank you, Jack, for the gifted sub to Davinia Robbins. And thank you, Biawi and Amavescence for the 2 Prime subs. Appreciate the support. Thank you for the Hype Train.
Cool. Oh, I'm on a Hype Train too. Cool. Thank you, Bilderberg, for resubscribing. 52 goddamn months.
Are you going to be fingering the corpse of the Conservative Party?
You know what? I will. Oh, if we get to the next level... Oh, we already did get to the next level. Cool. Yeah, thank you, Mad Cat Scotty, for gifting a sub, and thank you, Wayward Historian, with 667 hype train bitties. Much love. Yeah, I'll finger the Conservative Party, because, I mean, it is absolutely dead. Completely and utterly.
Hype train going. Who gets the digit? I
We
get
should
the
do a
kitty
Lenin
honk.
with it. We should embalm it and keep it. As like a kind of an important part of our political
A
past.
warning from history.
Exactly, and it would make fingering it much more easy for me. Because Stalin's below ground and Lenin's above ground, so you know what I mean. All I'll say is I've got history. I know what I'm talking. There's empirical data behind this.
Voters have done in the last year or so. He's ended his lifelong support for the Conservatives and now backs Reform UK. Welcome to our panellists, welcome to our audience here in Cheltenham. Very nice to see you, and of course, welcome to you at home. Do join in the conversation on social media or just sit back and watch the debate going on here. So let's get started with our first question, which is from Rachel Hawthorne.
Hi. Would removing the two-child benefit cap be the right thing to do, or does it incentivise a benefits culture?
Heidi.
So the government is doing a really important piece of work at the moment to put together a child poverty strategy, which is going to...
You've had a quango and you've kept hundreds of thousands of children in poverty needlessly for the last year.
And they've already delayed the announcement of the timescale for their child poverty strategy.
Yep.
Again, if you're going to have a strategy for child poverty, this is what you do before the election, and then you put it in your manifesto. Waiting 10 months and longer than you've been in government to go, oh, maybe we should look at this thing. That's ridiculous. That's stupid. It shows these people to be the amateurs that they really are. And they don't have a clue what they were going to do when they got into government. Because, of course, it's obvious it would reduce child poverty. It's obvious it would reduce child poverty. You could do it tomorrow if you wanted to do so, if you could find the money, because you can, you're a sovereign currency issuer, and it would take hundreds of thousands of little kids out of poverty. It's super simple.
Indeed, yeah, and they've known this all the time, and it's so obvious who's the sort of Pied Piper in all of this, because we know from behind the scenes that Keir Starmer actually wants to get rid of the two-child cap because it's unpopular and unpleasant, right? He has to answer difficult questions about it, whereas Morgan McSweeney, the actual Prime Minister, has decided no, because he's just a Tory wanker, and that's it. He doesn't want to do it. Because if you're nice to the kids, you might have to give money to poor people and old people as well.
The thing as well is that I actually don't think Keir Starmer cares either way about what happens to child poverty. But what's been reported is that he doesn't want to be seen as the Prime Minister who let child poverty rise. Like, it's a bit late for that, frankly. Yeah, and it's not even about the welfare of the kids. It's about, well, what will people think of me?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, he doesn't oppose it because it's a bad thing. Because if he did, presumably he would have done something about it by now. He opposes it because it's unpopular. Like, no, most people are like, that's disgusting. If you've got like more than 2 kids, you need to feed those kids as well. Either you're going to have child benefits or you don't fucking bother, right? Whereas they've gone with this halfway house of, oh well, you can feed up to 2 kids, and then if your 3rd kid is a rape baby and you can prove that somehow, have it. Yeah, brilliant. We'll give you a 3rd benefit as well. It's ridiculous. What the fuck? Yeah. It's one of the most insanely and needlessly cruel things that if you were going to be the change government, you could do very easily. It wouldn't cost that much and would make you instantly far more popular and give your supporters a reason to say, like, oh, you see, this is the direct change, the direct positive change we made to the poorest in society by electing a Labour government. And they went, no, we might get a bad headline in the Sun, so no. Ridiculous.
Yep.
To report in the autumn, and I think everyone here tonight and listening tonight will realise that actually tackling poverty is at its heart about making sure that people have got good quality, well-paid jobs, and that the basics of life are affordable. And so if you look at what the Labour government has done since we were elected, we've increased the minimum wage for 3.5 million people at the lowest paid in the country, which is worth about 1,000.
You weren't asked about this.
No.
Stop avoiding the question. You were asked specifically about the 2-child limit on universal credit and child tax credit. Thank you for giving us the correct name, Ben. I do appreciate that framing. You asked about that, about benefits culture, and about whether it was a good thing to do. And you're talking now about something completely different. No, answer the bloody question, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Phil Decker, with 100 bits, and thank you everyone for the hype train. I've got to go to CCHQ.
£400. We're introducing things like free breakfast clubs in primary schools so that every
So
child...
you don't need to actually feed your kids properly. We can do a 60 pence a day preschool meal for them, and that's enough. Apparently.
Child starts the day with a hungry mind and not a hungry tummy.
But let's just stick to the two-child benefit cap for a moment.
Thank you,
because
Fiona.
Well,
this
journalism
was something that was started by the Conservatives. It's something that when Labour came into power, they continued with the two-child benefit cap. At the time, and this is less than a year ago, it was unaffordable to lift that cap. Now the government is considering lifting that cap. So what has changed?
So we're going to look at the evidence through the child...
what happened is they got absolutely fucked in the local elections. Next question.
And Nigel Farage is trying to outflank them.
Yeah.
What's important to talk about here is that Fiona Bruce isn't challenging the claim that it's unaffordable.
No.
It's really important. I think this is one of the biggest failures we have in journalism in this country, is that when politicians try and create a narrative, journalists don't try and contextualize that. What you could do in response is say, you claim that it's unaffordable, so that the audience know it would be 0.1% or whatever it is of government expenditure to be able to do that, which is sort of what we have. We spend £1 trillion a year in terms of state expenditure, and it is £2.5 billion, something like that. So it's an infinitesimal amount of government expenditure to be able to do in the grand scheme of things. So them saying it's unaffordable must mean that the margins are super fucking tight.
Yeah. And we know she's a Tory, so she's not going to like challenge the basic sort of premise behind it. But at least she's forcing the government minister to actually talk about the thing, rather than just letting her go through the fucking spiel. Like, did you see Keir Starmer at some event or another in one of these places where they just like get a factory to shut down for the afternoon, and he goes there and answers questions that are pre-prepared or whatever. And someone asked him the question, do you think the problem you have with Nigel Farage is that I think they said something like he can mimic talking like a person, whereas you just speak in sound bites or something. and I was expecting him to go like, this is your chance, give him a proper answer and prove him wrong. Nope. String of sound bites, just a complete string of sound bites, beep boop, talking point, the talking points, and that's it. And then he moved on. And I'm like, you just proved his point correct then, yeah.
Literally doing the Tony Blair standing on the shoulders of giants thing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, after the Belfast Agreement, yeah. Amazing.
Poverty Task Force. I think this is a really thorny issue, if I'm honest, because
But what
I've
makes you think
spoken...
you can
Oh no, that was
afford
it.
now when you could-
Tony Blair saying I feel the hand of history on my shoulder.
On my shoulder, that's the one, yeah.
Today is not the day for town bites. No.
afford it then?
Well, look, the economy is improving. We are the fastest growing economy in the G7 in the first 3 months of this year. We've seen wages rising faster than prices. We've signed 3 trade deals. And so there really are improvements to the strength of the economy.
But the effect of the US tariffs has yet to kick in, so we don't know what will happen with the economy.
On the substantive point that you're asking me about...
Well, on that point, they might not kick in. Because apparently the courts have tried to do a democracy or something in America.
Have you heard the new term they're using to describe the Trump tariffs?
No, go for it.
They're calling them the taco tariffs in the trading world in America. Can you guess what taco stands for?
Trump always chickens out, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Trump always chickens out, right? Basically, they've trained themselves in like the treasuries market and the bond traders and things like that, and the kind of institutional investors in the stock market have all trained themselves that they know there's going to be a dip when the tariffs are announced, and they can immediately buy the dip because they know it's going back up because Trump.
Well,
always
exactly,
chickens
yeah,
out.
exactly. They can make more money than if he just didn't do anything, because they know it's going to happen. And if you're just ahead of the curve, you can sell before the dip, then buy the dip, and you get the money all back as well. Like it's, if you know how to play the system, it's brilliant, yeah. And this, honestly, having taco be the thing that, or taco, or whatever fucking pronounce it in America, be the thing is more annoying to him than any amount of calling him a fascist or like actually embarrassing him intellectually ever will. The idea that he's being seen as weak and like pathetic, that will hurt him. Which means he might actually start a nuclear war. Just to prove how much he doesn't chicken out. See, I flattened Moscow. Whoopah! Where's your fucking taco jibes now, dickheads? Just glassed half of Europe. Whoa!
Is whether it would be right to lift the cap on benefits for people who have larger families. I speak to people in the town that I represent in Swindon, and many of them have said to me that they have limited the number of children that they have because they can't afford to have another child, and they feel that they're playing by the rules and they're being responsible. Now, I think around the edges there are some really difficult issues. If you're pregnant and you're expecting one baby and you have triplets, you're acting entirely responsibly. Can you actually, afford to provide?
Stop.
If you're
I fucking hate this moral argument. I hate it so much. I had a big rant about it on stream before, so I'm not going to redo it again. But putting this simply, right, is that I don't care about the moral argument. First of all, because we should be feeding kids regardless. That we're punishing the kids for the supposed poor behaviour of the parents, and that's monstrous if you believe in this, right? If you want to starve children to teach parents a lesson, you're a monster, plain and simple. But even if you're
you're an Israeli government minister.
Or you're an Israeli government minister, very, very true. But even if you were to take the argument at face value and to give it the credence it doesn't deserve, it doesn't even do that. It doesn't even do that. There was a whole big report about the effect of the 2-child cap on universal credit and difference in terms of the family planning decisions of the people affected by the cap before and after the cap was introduced. So all of this belly aching about responsible family planning decisions that we don't want to feel like that we're being enabling of with the 2-child benefit cap being removed is all bullshit. It's all total bullshit with no basis in fact, and is entirely pushed by people who think that policy is there to make them feel good rather than to actually achieve some kind of utilitarian ends. I hate hearing it. I'm tearing my hair out of people on fucking TikTok telling me that I don't care about the reality of the facts.
Well, exactly, and we've seen that with the discussion around the decriminalisation of marijuana, brought forward by Sadiq Khan in the last few days. Regardless of, again, what you think of the morality of this, we know that decriminalisation, when done properly, works very, very well. In fact, it works enormously well if you do it for all drugs, basically, right? But, as you say, people want the feels rather than the reals. They think drugs are bad and people who take drugs are bad. So all drugs have to be illegal, therefore making the situation unmanageable to any degree, frankly. And leading to far worse health outcomes and crime outcomes than if we did the obvious thing that other people have done and made work.
The child benefit cap doesn't affect people who have twins.
No, but you're right, Fiona. The child benefit cap is applicable to everyone, but this relates to universal credit. The other example I would give is if you've had a larger family and your partner leaves you and you've only got one income. That's why the government is going to look at the evidence through this child poverty task force.
There's already evidence!
And we will make...
There's already fucking evidence! We already know how many kids are in poverty because of it. There is reams and reams and reams of study after study. Every single poverty action group or charity has told you this already. You do not need to fucking hire KPMG or some bullshit consultancy to tell you that this would reduce child poverty if we got rid of the cap. It's not complex. It's not difficult. There is already the evidence. I hate this. I hate this so much. And all it is, right, the specific political reason for this is to try and, again, act like there's no ideology involved here. They're just doing what the expert technocrats told them to do by allowing the Quango to take on all the responsibility of setting policy. I'm sick of it. I hate it. Just do your job and do something because you believe it to be correct.
Yep.
Make a decision later this year about what is the most effective way to permanently reduce the number of children who are growing up in poverty, because nobody wants to see children going without.
David, the Conservatives want to keep the cap.
Oh.
Why?
Well, people do want to see kids grow up in poverty because there are loads of people who support the cap to punish the parents.
Yep.
Like, stop saying no one wants people to be in poverty. Lots of people do, including this fucker on your screen right now.
Nobody wants to see that.
£26 for the first child and 17 for the second and subsequent is not a huge amount of money for many household budgets, but it's also coming at a huge cost to other taxpayers. And the view that my party took when we were in office is the best way to lift children out of poverty is to help their mums and dads to get a good job. There were 4 million more people.
Oh, he's an evil gnome. He's not one of the good gnomes. He's an evil gnome. Okay.
Just, there are people who have fucking jobs who are not getting more universal credit to top up their shitty wages because of the 2-child cap on universal credit. There are people out there who literally did the thing you told them to fucking do, go out and get a bloody job, who are now having starving children because they can't get the extra welfare because of the cap, right? This is totally out of sync with the entirety of reality. And again, who is responsible for us having shitty wages in this country? Let's assume that it's the people who are in government for 14 years of wage stagnation, shall we?
Yeah. Aiden with a banger. Is that the goblin from Clash of Clans? Also true. He does look like that.
When we left office, the level of youth unemployment had halved. All of that had really helped to address the issues which Heidi has quite rightly discussed.
Okay, okay, right. So, but youth poverty had massively increased. Homelessness had massively increased. Food bank usage, which was virtually unheard of before your tenure in government, ballooned. To the point where there are more food banks than there are McDonald's.
330,000 excess deaths. Yeah, the amount of people who are in poverty was smaller than it otherwise would have been because loads of them fucking died.
Yeah.
Loads of them died, right? That's the reality. You and envoys came to this country, looked at it and said you are violating the human rights of the disabled. That's the reality of Conservative governance, chat.
Yeah.
Described. I think in the long term, if we think about the work my party is now doing in opposition, thinking about the future challenges that we face, I think we would all agree cross-party that we need to look at better ways of lifting children out of poverty.
Yeah, you're all the same fucking wanker who wants to palm it off to quangos and other groups of other middle and upper class wankers to tell us things that we already know. Oh, do you think it makes people more or less poor to give them money?
I mean, that's one thing you hear often. Like Kimmy Badenoch said this in 2023, I think it was, right? Oh, well, you can't just throw money at poverty to make it go away. Literally the opposite is true.
Yeah.
You absolutely can do that. Every single cash transfer policy towards the poorest, towards those who need it, across like the world in the imperial core that has enough kind of wealth from extraction to be able to afford the stuff. Every single time it's been tried, always been overwhelmingly successful at reducing poverty.
But they do this across the board. It's the same with housing, right? Do you think we'd have more or less homeless people if we offered everyone a home?
Like, well, then you're incentivizing people to want to get free stuff.
Exactly. So again, it's not about the outcome, because A, they've already gotten their outcome, which is homeless people freezing to death and poor people being poor. That's what they want. They'd never say that, of course, which is why when they ask, again, when you see polls of British public attitudes, they're lying. They're just lying wankers, the British public. They'll say they support the NHS and reducing poverty and this, that and the other, and then go and vote for fucking evil goblin man here. Right? They're liars. They don't want to say to another person's face, yes, I want to see poor people suffer. But ultimately, they do actually want to see poor people suffer. So they vote for the people saying, we're going to make them suffer. Because they're evil bastards.
Exactly. And as Ben points out in chat as well, like, abolishing the 2-child limit would cost the government £4,500 per child brought out of poverty, according to the Institute of Fiscal Studies, the single most cost-effective child poverty policy per child, right?
Yeah.
It is a no-brainer unless your personal priority is punishing parents by starving children, right? Unless your priority is further on teaching moral lessons that it doesn't even fucking teach because it doesn't bloody work when you look at the evidence, is more important to you than stopping children from starving. And if that's your moral position, I think you're disgusting. I think you're subhuman. I don't want to share a fucking country with you. I'm sorry.
But ultimately, it doesn't even say, again, it's the fake economics of austerity all over again. If you make lots and lots of people grow up in unnecessary poverty, what you do is create another generation of jailbait. That's it. They're going to end up in jail. Which, again, seemingly you want, because we know how to end, or not end crime, but to end the massively bloating prison population, and you don't want to do it. which means you ultimately do want a massively ballooning prison population because you're fucking mental. And seemingly want to spend all of your money in tax to build new prisons.
And keep people out of the workforce, right?
Yeah.
They're not productive if they're in prison.
Yeah, exactly. It's oh god, it's all conservative politics are ultimately counterproductive if their intentions are legitimate, which they're not because they're liars.
I think you mean jailbirds, not jailbait, right?
Yes, sorry. I thought I might have fucked that up, but I wasn't sure and I wasn't going to fucking go back on it. But yeah, jailbirds. Not jailbait. That would be a very different thing. Although we are talking about the Conservatives here, so I mean...
True.
That's about skills. It's about helping parents who want to work more hours to do that. It's about helping mums and dads with disabilities to get back into the workplace. And all of those are strategies that...
Okay, so it's not about lifting kids out of poverty. It's making parents who have children in poverty work 80-hour weeks.
Yes. That's literally it, yeah.
Literally, they're fucking disgusting monsters, these people.
Yeah.
We looked at one in government that were beginning to take effect. Now, I think it's positive that the government are looking at taking many of those things forward. But what we need to avoid is a situation...
Yeah, so that's the Tory going, we're glad the Labour Party are taking on all of our policies.
It's the Blair era all over again, right? Remember, and when anyone tells you, oh, Jeremy Corbyn kept voting against Labour when they were in government, it's because he was also voting against the Tories that voted with the government.
Yeah. Also, don't be... confused if there's like a poor voting record for some people like that, because essentially you get two choices: the government's plan or the opposition amendment, and if they're both shit, why would you vote for either of those things?
Yeah, just abstain.
Where we're asking more and more taxpayers to bear the costs of the benefits bill. It's simply not fair to other people. And most of us as mums and dads need to think about how are we going to fund the cost of the children that we want to bring up and bring into this world. And that's a reasonable expectation.
So when Rachel says, does it incentivise a benefits culture, do you think it does?
But there's always a risk with any form of benefits that that's an issue. But we need to make sure that families get the support that they need when they're in a situation, and that's balanced off against what we're asking other people to pay. We already have a situation where the majority of people in the UK who are taxpayers are actually getting more out of the system than they're paying in. And we need to make sure that work pays, that families are able to support themselves. And
okay, but it doesn't, and it hasn't for a very long time.
And because of their policies, supply-side labour market reform, right? Wanting to crush the bargaining power of workers within the economy through their labour market policy to try and ensure that the owners of the businesses who pay money to their party can keep more of the surplus value. Yeah. That's what they've done consistently for 15 years, well, 14 years of them being in government. This is why wages don't pay. And on top of this, I want to pull him up on something very specific, right? When he talks about people getting more out of the system than they put in, this isn't benefits, this is public services, right?
Yeah.
This is all public expenditure he's talking about here, not people being paid cash transfers by the state in the form of welfare payments, right? So it's really disingenuous for him to imply that we have a society where half of the people are leeching off the others, which is the rhetoric that he's implying here. That's what the right have been using some think tank broadcasters through the Telegraph to trying to get this into the public consciousness, right? Yeah, we all use the NHS. Brilliant. What this means is, of course, is that there's a top half of taxpayer and a bottom half of taxpayer, and yeah, of course it's going to be just around over half that gets more out they put in. That's how progressive taxation works.
Yeah. Also, a fantastic point raised by Bryn, which I hadn't even considered within this discussion. The Conservatives like to go on about like creating good families and strong family units and strong parenting, and well, every time there's a riot or something kicks off, where are the parents? Why weren't the parents doing anything? Because they're working 4 fucking jobs. It's because they're working 80-hour weeks to barely keep their head above water. You've created a nation of latchkey kids. Trust me, I was fucking one of them. Toryism has destroyed the fucking family unit. Because again, they'll say they support the family unit, but actually they don't. If they did, they'd vote for vastly different social and economic policy.
Yeah, apparently 60% of children affected by the 2-child limit are from working families, right? So again, literally punishing the people who they told to do, who are doing the things that they told them to do. And on top of this as well, right, they also complain about the declining birth rate, yet are apparently trying to push a policy to stop people having kids.
Yeah.
Not that it works, 'cause it doesn't. The evidence shows that it doesn't stop people having kids, right? But that's the narrative they're going with at a time when they're also going, fuck, make the kids. Will you support us doing it? Well, no, actually. Well, of course I'm not going to fucking do it.
Yeah. Like, we're pro-life until it's born. And then you're on your fucking own.
We have an economy that can fund the kind of public services that we want to see in this country.
Man there in the check shirt.
As a lifelong Labour supporter, I'm really pleased to hear what Heidi has to say. That the
What? What the fuck are you talking about? You are old enough, if you are indeed a lifelong Labour supporter, to remember when we had an actually vaguely socialist Labour Party. So if you are a lifelong Labour supporter, you have gone on an interesting individual journey as well, through fucking Blairism and all the rest of it. Why would you be happy with the scumfuck shit she just said? Why would you be happy about that?
She basically said nothing.
Yeah.
She basically just said, well, this is what people think about the cap, and child poverty is bad. We have an action group that will report in a year and the fucking 10 months' time, right? Like, or 4 months. It was later in the year, right? She said, well, we have this quango that will tell us what to do in 4 months' time. That's nothing. She said nothing.
Do you own birds?
There's a bird outside my window.
Yeah, it sounds like the ambient background music of a fucking Walt Disney film from 1930.
Honestly,
the Tweety birds. Lovely.
And I really hope this is Labour refinding their moral compass and not toffing their hats to the Reform Party and to Nigel Farage.
No,
Exactly.
no, you've misunderstood. They're still doing that. Look, I did the joke the other week that we need to get Nigel Farage to come out in favour of nationalising industry, because it's the only way the Labour Party will then do it. And that's precisely the thing that's now happening, right? When Nigel Farage has always been really right-wing, and so naturally, in order to ape them, he's become really right-wing and starts, quoting the 14 words or whatever on Twitter. And now that Nigel Farage is out there going, like, I'll get rid of the two-child benefit cap, all of a sudden, the Politburo are considering getting rid of the two-child benefit cap. He's still doing that. He's still doffing his cap. Nigel Farage is dog-walking an entire generation of political leaders in Britain. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even during the run-up to the election, when we talk about, well, who's setting Labour policy, it was fucking Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
Going, they can't pay for their 28 billion. Oh, we're going to scrap the 28 billion.
Yeah, mad.
As the Conservative gentleman has just discussed, it is the best way of taking children out of poverty.
Yeah, but the Conservatives don't support that policy.
We should support
He said it's not
it is the best way, whether they...
You don't support, you support keeping the
I'm
two...
sorry, who's released Grandpa from the home without his meds? This guy don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
I mean, his memory's gone. He missed, like, the interregnum from 1997 to 2025.
Yeah.
Child benefit.
Yeah, otherwise they would have taken it out. But it is the biggest way and the best way of increasing the livelihoods of young people growing up in our society, and we have a responsibility to them.
Okay, man there.
We've been told that the economy is improving, and that may be able to fund this. Is the economy improving sufficiently so it can also fund a U-turn on winter fuel allowance? And is it improved sufficiently to stop there being more tax increases in the winter budget?
Okay, I will come to that. Tim.
The most powerful force for good, I think, in society is the love of a parent for their children. I know for my own mum and dad, it's an amazing love that makes society stronger in 101 different ways. But at the moment, so many parents, so many would-be parents, feel that they can't afford to have children. Now, probably the biggest reason is house prices. House prices are probably the biggest, most powerful contraceptive imaginable. But it's not the only reason.
You see what I mean?
I have a lot of...
He's a Tory wanker, but there's some sense there. You get the idea that he does actually understand the reality of the world around him. It's just his policies are shite.
I mean, yeah, this sounds like the kind of thing you'd hear from, like, Ted Heath or whatever. This is definitely beyond the realm of kind of the continuity Thatcherism that you usually get from the Tories, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a human being in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's not all this kind of dispassionate discussion of the economic consequences of something. Is like, no, look, we have a society that needs tending to. What do we do to make that better?
Yeah.
Simply what David has said, people who are earning money that hasn't come easy to them, perhaps they do object to people on benefits receiving help to have children when they may have made a decision that they can't afford more children. But what interesting fact is, and I think this is why Nigel Farage has taken the position that he has, is that 59% of the people that would benefit from lifting the cap are actually in work, but they also receive benefits to top up what are inadequate incomes. So I don't think it's...
Again, how can a capitalist say this? We have people working full-time jobs that don't earn enough to live, so the government have to top it up. And you support the economic system, the fucking disgusting, inhuman travesty that allows that to happen. You can work a full-time job and not have enough to feed you and your children. Why would you ever be okay with that? It's maddening.
I mean, this is the thing, right? Is that the Reform Party's platform specifically says, oh, people are out of work, we need to incentivise good work, we need to make life affordable again, so we're going to cut your taxes. That's their line, right? To make work pay, we're going to increase the tax-free threshold. Obviously, that'll affect everybody, but the biggest percentage people who it will affect broadly are low earners. There are other tax policies for higher earners actually give them a better percentage decrease in their overall tax, right? But the people who are most focused on this specific policy are people who are poorer.
Yeah.
The issue, of course, is these are the same people who rely on public services more than everybody else in society, right? So cutting taxes and then cutting public services at the same rate negatively affects those people because they would receive more from public services than they would pay in tax. So it's a real false economy if you're thinking that the best way of making work pay for poorer people is to cut their taxes by a small amount, £1,500 I think it is per year, if they removed the tax-free allowance, up to £20,000. Where in reality, if you want to make work pay, you should take money from the bosses via better wages, trade union bargaining, more demand-side labour market policy, running full employment economics, for example, by shifting money from the owners to the workers. But Reform don't want to do that, do they?
No.
Because the people who own the businesses are the people who donate to the Reform Party. So they can't do anything to improve wages. All they can do is cut taxes.
Yeah. Also, this weird pro-natalist wank that he's come out with recently, there's no real policy you can put in place that will increase the birth rate. You can make it more likely, but it's not one policy. It's about a complete reorientation of the way in which you do things. Once you get into the spiral of like negative birth rates and stuff, and a reliance on immigration and all the rest of it to sort of top that up, that you have to be pretty radical in the way in which you approach it. And just saying, oh, you get a small amount of money. Like, people don't have kids based on those sorts of tiny things. You've created a situation where no young person thinks that anything good can ever happen again. Why the fuck would you bring a child into that?
Yeah, exactly. Stability is the big thing as well.
Yeah.
So he talks about housing costs, right? Obviously, just giving people more money to spend on rent isn't a good long-term solution. What you want is council housing, not just because it's cheaper, but because you don't ever have to worry as much as you do in private accommodation of being kicked out and forced to move elsewhere, be ripped out of your community, out of your stability, right? I think that's the biggest thing that young people face is poor housing, and council housing is the best solution for that problem. But that would involve long-term investment, that would involve long-term planning, it would involve pissing off the NIMBYs, and of course Reform don't want to do any of that.
Yeah. Oh, in terms of the speech impairment as well, no, he's not drunk. That's unpleasant. No, there's some kind of speech thing he has going on there, which we can let that slide. That's not an issue, Chuck. Come on.
As simple, actually, as saying this is a policy to help people on welfare or not on welfare. It's a policy to help people to actually do what they most want to do. It's a natural human instinct to bring children into the world, but we in the West have made it incredibly expensive. And one of the saddest things, I think, at the moment is that so many young people are deciding not to have children, not because they don't want to have children, but they just don't think that they can afford it. And so this is only a small step towards helping address that issue.
Yeah,
but I think it's
I wish I could drum into the heads of politicians. Young people don't think they can afford regular meals out. They're definitely not going to be able to afford a child. People make decisions like that. The economies that the younger people have had to make in order to just survive in today's economy make it impossible for them to have children. You have created this.
Like, and at the end of the day, we just have a massive problem that journalists in this country, they've never fucking spoken to a young person in their life. No. They haven't spoken to any young people and go, what's the issues that you have? Like, we live in a different world. Like, young people nowadays, they don't engage in the kind of consumerism that a bunch of the old generations were encouraged to engage in the run-up to 2008, for example, right? We have lived our entire adult lives where we don't just frivolously go shopping. We're not out there trying, actually, for all of the things they try and get us for, we don't go out there to try and get all of the newest stuff to try and be all up to the times. In fact, we're buying second-hand things a lot of the time, second-hand clothes, buying things on Depop, everywhere. It's we've internal austerity culture, right? Where we have done austerity on ourselves because we can't afford anything else, right?
Yeah. No, and in terms of Tim, I don't think he just means more white children. I suspect that, like, when Elon Musk talks about this, he does mean white people. When Nigel Farage talks about this, I think he predominantly thinks of white people. But I actually don't think Tim Montgomery does mean that.
No, I agree.
I get the impression he's not actually a racist. Albeit, he's still a conservative, which is you.
Yeah. Also, another thing I would add about the cost of living crisis and young people's consumption habits, right? There was a podcast from Politics Joe the other day where they had someone from Ipsos talking about young people and men saying that dating is harder because of the economy. Well, yeah, of course it is. You can't afford to go out and do things.
Yeah.
We'll have people going on saying, the nightlife is dying. It's £7 a pint in London. It's £4 or £5 a pint in, like, the clubs elsewhere. No one's going out because they can't afford it. They have no money.
Yep, absolutely.
It's like when we saw in post-2008 with millennials are killing XYZ industry. I'm like, yeah, because we can't afford yachts. Like, we can't afford holidays to Saint-Tropez. And of course we're not buying these things. We don't have money.
Necessary one. And I hope the gentleman there is disappointed that maybe it's come from Nigel Farage first. But I hope what will happen in this policy is I think Labour are moving in this direction, and it's the beginning of a policy to address the fact that at the moment, as a country, we will die out. We aren't producing anywhere near enough children to keep our population stable.
Now, lifting the two-child benefit cap was one of a number of things Nigel Farage proposed this week, all of which were going to cost a lot of money. That was greeted with some scepticism amongst economists who said it might leave a gap of the size of possibly 100 billion in the public finances. Now, you're a supporter of reform, but I know you think those numbers don't add up either.
Well, look, we're 4 years away, or 3 or 4 years away from a general election. If reform have any chance of forming the next government, it will have come in the context of, first of all, David's party, the Conservative Party, failing in office, and probably Labour as well. And I think voters probably elected Labour last time, not with a great sort of awareness of what they were voting for, but because they'd rejected the Conservatives. I don't think that will happen with reform. I think what you will expect, rightly, is you'll kick the tyres incredibly hard.
But what about the numbers, Tim?
What I'm saying is that by the time of the next election, we absolutely have to answer the question that you have asked.
Well, he's right that they do have to answer that question. But in terms of the complacency with which people will vote for his party, I don't think he's correct at all. It'll be a different paradigm. It won't be people voting for them just to say fuck you to the Tories. It'll be fuck you to all of them. There will be literally, potentially millions of people in this country who will vote for the Reform Party because they're not any other party.
Yeah, they are the anti-Westminster party.
Yeah, exactly. They're none of the above party.
Yep.
Yeah. So, which means that your policy doesn't really matter. Within reason, of course. I'm not suggesting they're complete idiots or anything like that. But, like, as long as you don't go out there and start doing crazy shit like, I don't know, making abortion one of your central fucking planks, you dopey bastard, yeah, people will just be fine with that, you know.
Your opinion, because, well, I know what your opinion is because you spoke about it this week. You said, as far as you're concerned, the numbers do not add up at present.
I don't think they do at the moment, but it's also, if you look at, so this is a policy that will cost £3 to £4 billion. What we don't know is COVID
12 months of Ukraine. Cool. One of the 100 years of that money as well.
£350 billion. We're about to spend £150 billion on building up our army over the next 10, 15 years. Bank bailouts cost £25 billion. This is small change. It's not fair to ask a party 3 years out from an election to do all the numbers now without knowing the context in which we'll be taking decisions.
No, but it's not unreasonable if a party suggests it's going to raise the income tax threshold to 20,000, if it's going to reintroduce the winter fuel payment, if it's going to lift the two-child benefit cap, to have some idea of how it might find the money for that. And I know you said you don't think those numbers add up.
Well,
and that's your comment on it.
There are policies that, so for example,
notice how there wasn't this
press...
same nitpicking over the vast reduction in corporation tax.
No, indeed, or the drop in inheritance tax, or things such as the fact they want to change the threshold for higher rates income tax up to £70,000. Right? There are loads of tax breaks they want to do, but it's only the one for poor people that they want to quibble over.
Yeah, the people earning £18,000 a year.
Or to be fair, it is worth pointing out that unless you earn £150,000, everyone gets the tax cut if you raise the bottom threshold, which is why I actually am against the policy, right? If you want to make people who are currently on the lower incomes better off, just give them welfare, just give them cash transfers. Don't cut taxes for everybody, otherwise you lose more revenue that you need on public services for those poor people.
Or, if you erect a guillotine in every town square as a threatening gesture towards the capitalist class, they might start giving wages that mean that people can live.
True.
Just a thought.
Conference this week, he was asked, will you reinstate the triple lock which pensioners receive? And he refused to answer that question. Now, you can draw your own conclusions about that. I just think, Fiona, generally, I criticised, when I joined Reform, I said to Nigel Farage, are you sure you want me? Because I was a pain in the butt for the Tories, and I will speak honestly, as I've done on your part.
As you have
but
done
I think it is unreasonable to ask 3 years out from an election for all the numbers to be set out in a spreadsheet now.
Jess, let's get back to the question. Since you were here, I wanted to ask you about that. Would removing the two-child
So
benefit
even
cap
when
be
they
the
have
right
a
thing to do,
lefty
or does it...
on, they speak last, and she'll be given 20 seconds, and then they'll move on.
Yeah.
Guarantee it.
Incentivise a benefit culture.
So Rachel asked if it incentivises the benefits culture, but actually removing that child benefit cap does the opposite, because we know that children that don't grow up in poverty are less likely to have additional health needs, are less likely to rely on a welfare state as an adult, are less likely to have poor educational outcomes. There are 4.5 million children in this country that are currently living in poverty.
You know what would...
I believe that we have a...
You know what that would drag those kids out of poverty?
Joining the EU.
Rejoining the EU, yeah.
I want to add something here, is that all of this is true. The Keynesian multiplier on the welfare payments to people who are going to spend it because they have high propensity for consumption is good, and there are plenty of things that you save money on in the long term by having fewer people in poverty through cash transfers to the poor. These are all true. I agree with them, but you shouldn't be your opening gambit, because at the end of it, these are kids. These are people who are far more than just taxable economic units, right? At the end of the day, the important thing is, even if none of this were true, it would still be the right thing to do, because kids being in poverty is bad prima facie, regardless of the macroeconomic concerns. But luckily, this is all true as well.
Yes.
A duty to pull those children out of poverty so that they do better in school, so that they can go on and get jobs and contribute to the economy. They didn't choose to be born into a larger family, and they all deserve to succeed. And that's why my party have been campaigning to remove the two-child benefit cap since it was introduced in 2017.
OK, Ava, I'll come to you in a second. I'm just going to hear a little bit more from our audience. Yes, the woman there.
Are we going to be like China, having one-child situation when they have only one child?
Yeah, I mean, I think they can have two now, but for years they could only have one. I'm not sure that anyone here on the panel is suggesting only have one child, but it's an interesting point. Yes, the woman there with the sunglasses on her head.
Yes, is it not the case that Reform will just say whatever is popular to get the votes, with no backing, with no numbers? Again, this is what Nigel Farage does
in bio.
to every campaign.
But I'm just coming around a minute. Man with the blue check shirt.
Is it time to look at absent fathers and see if they can contribute to some of this money to raise the children out of poverty?
I'm going to just check, Ava. I'm going
to
come to
you realise that that already happens. The CSA's already been a thing since like the 70s.
It's just endless endless like rerunning of American discourse from 30 years ago, just
Yeah.
constantly. And again, rerun of Benefit Street as well with the Robert Jenrick stuff from earlier today, just constantly the same rhetoric laundered again and again and again. Just my nightmare, my endless nightmare.
Yeah.
I just wonder, is there anyone here who supports the two-child benefit cap? Anyone at all? In keeping it?
One
okay,
person.
Right, well, let's hear from a couple of you then. Yes, the man there.
Pause.
You
But
said yes,
again, I
absolutely.
will just say, well, apropos of the thing I mentioned earlier, the British public are lying bastards.
Yes.
They realise it makes you look like an absolute ghoul to say, yes, I'll put my hand up on national TV and say I want to starve children. So they don't.
Yeah.
But they'll go and vote for fucking gnome wanker.
True. Yeah, literally. And again, when they're asked by pollsters, they actually say they like the cap.
Yeah.
But when you contextualise it, they're less likely to say it because they know that it increases child poverty.
Like, Cheltenham,
and this is,
Cheltenham is not revolutionary country or anything.
no,
you
Lib
know?
Dem territory, you know?
Yeah. Fuck off, lying bastards. At least there's one honest, evil bastard in the room.
True.
The other one, look, I'm not scared of him. He's probably not going to kill anyone. It's the ones that keep quiet you got to worry about.
As Izzy said before, if you can't afford to have children, don't have children. Simple as that. The taxpayer shouldn't be paying for you to have 3, 4, 5 kids. It's got to stop somewhere.
Who's going to look after you when you're older, though?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Who's paying for your gold-plated pension, you wanker?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But, like, no, you shouldn't stop somewhere. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Have 10 kids if you want. State pays for it. Fuck it. We need more. We need a higher birth rate. Go for it.
Yeah, we need more people, yeah. Like, there's a reason we've been importing is not the right word, but the reason that it's been necessary to have more and more people coming in is because we're not creating people. People are still shagging, they're just not conceiving.
Sorry?
Who's going to look after you when you're older if we don't have
My
more
younger
children?
partner.
Oh, literally, pause.
And the man behind you, I think you stuck your hand up as well. Did
Fuck
you?
got mine.
Yeah,
That's
literally,
it.
yeah. Well, that's Toryism, yeah. Of course
That
it
is cultural neoliberalism in action.
But again, I don't want to seem like I like Tim Montgomery, but like it's the right question.
Mm-hmm.
But who's going to look after you? And the whole point is, it's not you specifically who they're going to look after. Who's going to look after older people? We have a demographic wedge situation taking place right now, where the older cohorts, who in the short term cost lots of money, right, because they're older, they're not economically productive anymore. I'm not suggesting that's a bad thing, it's just what happens. You fucking retire, right? You get sick, you need more help, etc. And we're having fewer and fewer people in those younger cohorts of economically active and productive people. At some point, there comes a crunch where that becomes literally impossible to maintain.
Yep.
So who's going to look after you and your generation when you're old and ill? We're not going to have immigration, apparently, because the rubber-sniffing dogs are going to stop all of that. So so you have to create actual people here now, surely.
With the glasses? Yes.
I think there's a danger of disincentivising people to have jobs if they're on the margin.
But they
and
do.
Might work.
Yeah.
Right. Ava.
Do you know that it's only £20 a week and then £17 for the additional child? It's not. I wouldn't go into having a third child for £17 a week. I mean, it works out at about £1,000 a year. You know, I could think of other ways I could make money. Probably. So I just want to counter.
What an interesting way to start your time on Question Time.
When I work for a youth brand. Anyway, I just want to counter a few things that David
Hang
said
on.
there.
So was
David
that,
said that it's
was that
not
a
the best-
casual, like, hooker joke?
Yeah, she was saying she could do OnlyFans.
Fair enough. You know what?
You know, I mean, again, you need to. Again, the I feel like Nigel Farage seems to have entirely monopolised like this kind of casual, jokey approach to talking on politics. Right? Fucking, let's have someone from the left do it. Finally.
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently, my audio and video are out of sync, so I'll refresh the page. We're on Ava. She hasn't spoken since, so we know exactly where we are.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. What? This episode will be available soon? What are you talking about? Ah, what? What? Chat, have you rat fucked me?
You've been rat fucked. We've been rat fucked by chat. Just when Ava was about to speak, cogs again by Question Time.
Oh,
The BBC
no.
are desperate for us not to be able to watch the Lefty on Question Time.
Yeah, it's been shut down. What's the 11th of June? That's not right. Oh, for fuck's... Oh, no! Oh,
Try refreshing again.
Oh, God. No, it's just not... It's just not there.
Can you
now.
go back on the live BBC feed and rewind?
Possibly. Is it BBC One?
Yes, it is BBC One, yeah. Oh, no, it's not on the BBC One. This is directly on iPlayer.
Oh, yeah, because it hasn't been shown live yet, has it?
Search Question Time in iPlayer specifically rather than the BBC website, then.
Okay. Oh, hang on. Apologies that you're going to have to edit this out.
It's fine. There's always, like, loads of editing, right?
No, 22nd. Why is... Oh, for fuck... What the fuck?
I wonder if it's been uploaded on YouTube yet. I can't imagine it's been in 15 minutes.
I wouldn't have thought so, no. Oh, the BBC News at 10... Oh, it's not even going to be on there for fucking hours. Oh, that's... Why is it... Why was it taken down? Oh, chat. I am blaming you rather than me for making the decision. Oh, for fuck's sake. Would it be on Parliament? I wouldn't have thought so.
Thank you, Jack, for the 100 bits. I can only imagine Ava must be able to make the perfect case for fully automated luxury communism. No wonder the Beeb took it down. True.
Yeah, her arguments were just too powerful.
I have to wait for 10:40 when it airs on TV. I mean, it's only 20 minutes, but...
Shall we?
I think that the Ava clip has been put up on Twitter, so we can at least watch the clip of Ava speaking about the two-child cap. The BBC Question Time Twitter account. We can at least watch that whilst we're waiting, and then we can go in after she's finished speaking. There's also Zach Polanski on Politics Hub today, where he went in on some reform like Ranker.
Okay. So Ava, right.
Do you know that it's only £20 a week and then £17
if you go to
for
the
the
BBC
additional
Question
child?
Time,
It's not.
That's the @ on Twitter. You should be able to find the clip of her speaking.
Oh, fuck! I forgot to change the thing. I've been listening to it. Sorry, I already had it on the fucking screen and I forgot to change the thing. Right. Okay.
Do you know that it's just going to change where the screen is.
Okay.
Sorry, chat. On both ends.
Okay.
There we go.
Right.
Do you know that it's only £20 a week and then £17 for the additional child? It's not. I wouldn't go into having a third child for £17 a week. I mean, it works out at about £1,000 a year. You know, I could think of other ways I could make money. Probably. Look, I just want to counter.
What an interesting way to start your time on Question Time.
And I work for a youth brand. Anyway, I just want to counter a few things that David has said there. David said that it's not the best way to counter child poverty. I want to totally disagree with him. Gordon Brown put out a report last week, which actually should have come from Labour, but Brown had to put it out because Labour refused to put out their long-awaited child poverty report. And he revealed that...
Oh, look at the resting bitch face on her. She is not happy.
Daggers.
Oh, well, maybe stop being shit. And then people wouldn't be able to criticise you so very, very easily.
Yeah, exactly.
Be 1 million children who could be lifted out of poverty just by adjusting these child benefit measures, the two-child benefit caps, sorry. The second thing is about taxpayer money. It will cost the taxpayer £3.5 billion, but it will save the taxpayer £40 billion in measures that are put in place to prevent these children from, what do I even say? I don't want to say dying, but honestly, this is really where we're at. We're talking about children. I've got friends who are
Well, we've had literal cases of borderline starvation in adults, to be fair, rather than children. But people have turned up literally emaciated in hospitals in Britain in the last few years. That's happened. It shouldn't be. You would think it'd be impossible, but here we are.
And again, when you make this point, you have to point out we've already lost 330,000 people who died as excess deaths from the Conservative austerity machine from 2010 till 2019. How many more can we afford to lose?
Yeah. Like, very few people actually die of starvation. It's your body gets weakened and your immune system is fucked and you catch a disease and die.
Yeah. Thank you, Jack, for the 100 bits. Economic inaction is greater than the cost of action, exactly.
Yeah. So you can watch Question Time on BBC News channel, starts at 9 p.m. Yeah, I know. What? Yeah. God damn it, Niall.
Teachers, my sister is a teacher. Children are going to school every single day hungry, and they may not be eating lunch at school because they don't have enough money for lunch. And then when they get home, their parents are splitting their meals between perhaps 3 or 4 children. I think the least we could do on a moral point is allow these parents to have an extra £17 a week so that a child doesn't go hungry. Let me come back to you. Do you know...
Tim Montgomery literally violently clapping
into his microphone directly.
Yeah, which was a nice move. You've got to amplify it. It's there for a reason, right? The left and the right unite and say, actually, child poverty is bad. I know Westminster says child poverty good, but actually, here's the kicker: it isn't. It's actually an appalling blight on our nation and an indictment upon us.
It is an international embarrassment.
Yes. Literally, we've had UN people turn up and go, "You're starving your fucking poorest. You monsters. You're treating the disabled like animals." Like, how can the generation of politicians who exist during that time show their fucking faces in public? Why aren't they at The Hague?
Yeah, exactly. It's monstrous. There's the only word I can use to describe these people who support this stuff. Just monsters. It's all you are. You're a monster. Also, hilarious story from Ben Sharp in chat that Ed Miliband did an interview on The Rest is Politics with Austerity Boy and the War Criminal.
Okay.
And he said that him, Alistair Campbell, Ed Balls and Gordon Brown went on a team building day out. And when they came back, they decided they wanted Labour to commit to reducing inequality. And apparently Tony Blair called them Marxists and got upset.
Of course he did. Well, because you know what's going to save us from poverty? AI.
True.
Will
je suis.
Yes, indeed. Right. Oh, for fuck's sake. No, it's still glitching out or whatever on fucking on BBC. Fuck you, BBC. You're shit. Why do you even pay? Like, you're saving money on Gary Lineker's fucking wages now, so look, come on now. Invest in your fucking infrastructure.
Can we Wayback Machine to when the page was right?
Well, you might be able to, but I'm not sure I could.
Let me find it. So you did it. You just went to the Question Time website, right?
Well, on the iPlayer.
Episodes. Next on 29th of... Well, now it's not even showing the iPlayer version on the fucking website.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like disappeared.
Well, it's 29th. Programs this one. Way back machine.
Oh no, I'm getting gypped from someone called MuskFan77. Oh no.
Ooh.
How terrible. I mean, how can I survive with such a person whose opinion I definitely respect? Oh, it's literally only uploaded the first question or whatever.
Yeah, because again, they only just finished, didn't it?
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So we should watch some Zach Polanski, shall we?
Let's. Even though he retweets extremists, he's a monster.
Did you see that he retweeted fake endorsements for his campaign that somebody had posted on Twitter?
Fair play. I'm okay with that.
It's honestly, slay.
Okay. Have you got a link for that? Because I don't know what the fuck I'm looking
It's
for.
BBC. It's the BBC. It's on Sky. It's the Sky News Politics Hub. It'll be in their live tab on the YouTube channel.
Okay. Sky News.
Honestly, I just want to say whilst we're here, every time I see the name of the chatter who's called Wee Jock Poopong McPlop, I'm always happier. It's an excellent name.
It is an excellent name and an excellent reference.
What's that a reference to?
It's from Blackadder. It's the guy who cleans out the latrines in Aberdeen. Wee jock poo pong muck plop.
Oh yeah, so it is.
I can't.
That's another Blackadder. That's another Blackadder reference with plop in the name here today.
True. Brothers in plop. Zach. Is it Zach with a K or a CH? I don't know.
If you just go to Sky News YouTube channel and then go to their live tab, then go to Politics Hub with Sophie Ridge.
Ah, okay, I'm with you. Where's Sophie Ridge? I can't see Sophie Ridge anywhere.
Are we on the live tab?
I'm on the live tab, and
It'll
it's
be Politics Hub, or maybe with Alice Fortescue today actually.
Business, breathing, watch news. News at 10.
But Keir Starmer compares Nigel Farage's economic plans to Liz Truss. Politics Hub.
Politics Hub is at the end of the. Oh, that's very annoying. Okay, well here we go. Right. Thank you to whoever just scared the shit out of me with that fucking thing. It's been like 6 months. I should really be over this. Thank you, Cameron Rees, with a very generous £20, who says, "Hi Kev, the people in the audience that supported it should know that the people down the road in Lizzie Way or Hester's Way have this issue. So they literally have this on their doorstep and are completely oblivious." Well, yeah, I mean, to be fair, they're not oblivious, right? They know this is going on and they actually support it going on because they don't care. They want to see the kind of end result of this fucking abomination of a policy.
Exactly, 100%.
Where's Zach? Where's old Zach Polanski? Scrolling.
But halfway through, yeah.
Oh, there he is. He's with oh God, what's his fucking name? Right. Apologies, chat. I've sort of balls this up tonight.
Right, let's bring in our duo for this evening.
Pause 1 sec, sorry,
I'm
just change the size of the stream thing.
Fair enough.
Go ahead.
BBC, yeah. No, to be fair, when I said the BBC licence wasn't worth it, I wasn't being literal. I was just annoyed at the question time not being available right now.
It's slightly nervous about this duo. Deputy Leader of the Green Party, Zach Polanski, and former Reform UK advisor, Gawain Towler. Zach, let's start with you, because Darren Jones is not particularly positive about the Green Party there, saying there's no new policies.
Well, I'm not particularly positive about this Labour government, so although I think he's right about the economic vandalism of Farage, let's talk about the Labour government. I think the most striking line today was when the Prime Minister said politics is about who you keep in your mind's eye. Well, we know who he doesn't keep in his mind's eye. He doesn't keep pensioners. He doesn't keep children who are in poverty. He doesn't keep millions of people around this country who are getting poorer.
No, to be fair, he does keep them in his mind's eye. It's just it's referred to usually as the wank bank. I'm saying he is sexually aroused by poverty.
Yeah, he's joining the war on child poverty on the side of child poverty.
Exactly.
Their living standards are being squeezed while multimillionaires and billionaires are getting richer and richer. So I think the real question is, why won't he protect nature? Why won't he protect the NHS? Why is he only protecting the wealth of the super rich?
But why is reform cutting through to an extent that the Prime Minister's calling a conference about them and not you?
I think it's absolutely absurd that the Prime Minister has called a conference in response to Nigel Farage. I think what would be much better...
Okay, member of the media elite says, why are they able to cut through after having given them 30 years of unalloyed fucking massive coverage that he has not deserved or warranted in any way whatsoever?
Yeah. How
could this possibly have happened? Why aren't you a party we've largely ignored over that same period, even though you have had a member of parliament during most of it? Why is no one listening to you as I take the microphone from you?
It's so true.
Fucking hell. Like, literally, they're gonna sort of, give, they're gonna trump Farage into office and then ask, how did this happen? And you're going to have a million think pieces from fucking wankers, largely in The Guardian, I think, get the complete wrong end of the stick. Like, all of a sudden, George Monbiot wants the left unity fucking alliance. When we had the opportunity of a maybe leftist government, it wasn't good enough. Fuck's sake.
Better than calling a conference would be to actually change people's living conditions, to tax multimillionaires and billionaires and spend that money on our public services, to stop saying he's learning all the wrong lessons from the Liz Truss government. If you invest money to fund unfunded tax cuts, that's a terrible idea. But right now, what the Prime Minister should be doing is investing in our public services in the same way Attlee did after the Second World War in a response to a crisis. That's how you get an economy.
But the difference is Attlee was an actual Labour Prime Minister. Whereas what this man is like a hobgoblin Tory.
Also, thank you, Councillor Martin Abrams. I'll appreciate the comment that you like Zach, but his hashtag back Zach gives you male grooming vibes because it says back Zach and crack if people want to extend it. Well, people already extended it, but they're extending it to back Zach and rack. I can't imagine. If any people can imagine that the rack doesn't refer to the kind of concrete in the schools.
What? So it's people posting tits?
I mean, depends how big though, because he's got a plan.
Or is it the medieval torture device, the rack?
The rack, true, or the Magic the Gathering card. I just want to point out, by the way, no shade on Zach, right? I'm fully pro big tits. Fully pro big tits, right?
Yes. We're very much pro tit on the channel.
Economy moving again. We should look at the climate crisis, COVID, Brexit, all of the things that have happened to this country, and actually the Prime Minister should go, this is the moment to be spending big and investing in the economy because that's going to create jobs, tackle the climate crisis and stop the rise of the far right.
Gawain.
Sorry.
Labour have 403 MPs, Reform have 5.
Yep. And Keir mentioned Nigel, 16 times in his short speech?
Hey, we've got it back. Fuck me. Sorry. We'll carry on with this for now, but like we can actually watch the programme we were watching. Gawain is an interesting name, isn't it?
Guy is fixated, isn't he? Completely fixated. So, from our perspective, it's very funny.
Fresh from winning best.
Up and he could fart in a room, and the Prime Minister would get excited. It's entertaining. Now, of course, I mean, we've only set out a number of policies, not the vast gamut of the whole public debate, but it has caused consternation. The fact is, we've come in and said, look, we are broadly free trading, we are broadly laissez-faire. However, reality and the reality of globalisation has meant that many communities have suffered. These are the communities who traditionally voted Labour, and they've looked at the Labour government, who, by the way, the idea of talking unfunded stuff, the fact is this government arrived, claimed one thing, claimed there's 22 billion hole, they've got up to 35 billion, there's trillions in government debt, and they're worried about a little bit here and there. They have not prepared, they are not ready.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not that they've just done evil shit. It's that they've done such inconsequentially financial evil shit. Like, they decided to make life more difficult for the poorest in society for literally no real reason. Like, the amount of money being saved is like a pittance. It's nothing. Was it 2 billion for the pension for the winter fuel? A couple of billion for the 2-child benefit cap? Like, what the fuck? It's nothing. It's minuscule.
Yeah, 5 billion for the PIP cuts as well. Like, and they're making it sound like a big deal. So people are getting it in their minds. Oh, benefits are unaffordable. The welfare state's unaffordable. I'm like, no, it's eminently affordable, and the amount that's being spent on it is a tiny amount of money in terms of the overall gamut of public spending. To hype this up to its level, it's just Cameronism. It's just Osborneism all over again.
Yep. Amazingly, I agree with you. We know who the government don't like. You didn't include farmers in that. Or businessmen, but you claim that they like billionaires.
Well, they like businessmen.
No, they
like
don't.
black
They're driving them out with their tax rates and their non-dom stuff. They're actually driving money out of this country. So you're wrong on that.
Well, I think that.
No, I've got no problem with the billionaires leaving, but your fucking money's going nowhere.
And on top of that, like, yeah, they don't have millionaires and billions in their mind. Like, millionaire farmers, the ones paying inheritance tax, because only millionaires pay inheritance tax. Top 4% of estates.
Yeah, like it's so annoying. We saw when it suits them, They'll take yachts off rich bastards. They'll take football clubs off rich bastards when it suits a geopolitical end. But apparently we can't possibly touch it when it's non-doms just taking all of our money to the Cayman Islands. No.
Public money to private equity, like KKR.
No, I'm sorry. The non-dom rules are driving out many of the wealth generators and the taxpayers of this country. The top 1%.
No, the wealth creators, the workers aren't going anywhere. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, literally. And even then, like, all of this figures about people leaving just totally baseless. I mean, of what 0.2% of millionaires are said to have left, and even then, I don't even believe those figures necessarily, because their evidence for this is just some LinkedIn locations that they've tried to corral through some like some think tank that's been set up for the super rich. Like, come on.
Of tax. You don't like them, but they are very important.
I think it's always important when Reform are speaking to talk about the fact that since 2019 to 2025, they took £2.3 million in donations from fossil fuel companies. No wonder they knock net zero. I care.
Yeah, I know you don't care because you're a corrupt bastard. Yeah, yeah. He wasn't really talking to you, was he? Because you already know that and don't care. Yes, he wanted the people to know that you're a fossil fuel bitch. BP are hanging out the back of you and we can all see it, mate.
The public care. You should have a banner underneath you saying who is paying for reform to speak.
You claimed yesterday 95%. That's rubbish.
It's 93%. 93%.
Is this what they call triggered?
Yes.
I think this definitely seems like some snowflake material, right?
According to prospectus, there's 40%. You're talking balls again.
Well, does Smog have released it?
I'm not
having Sky News fact check.
Can we just...
You're talking balls, good sir. Honestly, he's going to offer him out. He's going to say, "You will meet me on the heath in the morrow." Pistols
Bring your
at
pistols at dawn.
dawn.
Great minds, Kev. Great minds.
One moment. Do you think Nigel Farage is being opportunistic?
No, in the sense that there's a little bit of that, of course, because you watched the
Hang
government.
on. No, but there's obviously a bit of that. What? So yes was actually the answer then. Okay, cool. This guy, he's like a pigeon. Like, he's just distracted from second to second. He doesn't know what's going on.
Trouble, and it's quite fun to poke them with a stick. But at the same time, he's been talking about most of these things for a long time. The transferable tax allowance, that was in a UKIP policy document in the 2007. The child benefit he was talking about a year ago.
The Prime Minister U-turning
but he put them all together in a speech.
And suddenly we have Nigel Farage talking about it.
Well, yes and no. As I say, the child cap he was talking about last year. The transferable tax allowance, he was talking about 15, 20 years ago. These are putting things together in one go. What Farage is supreme at is during recess, he comes out, has a press conference. 2 days beforehand, he dominates the agenda. We're talking about it now, 2 days later.
Yeah, because the media seem intent on giving him as much oxygen as possible. He's also spent recess fucking off to America to earn more money speaking. Like, this is the problem he's going to have. If he wants to become Prime Minister, he does realise that it involves quite a lot of work.
Yeah,
because he doesn't want to do one Friday, maybe every fortnight, in Clacton. You realise you have to do like dozens of those meetings every fucking day as Prime Minister. You know the bit at the start of PMQs where he says, "I've had such and such meetings and I'll have loads more today." That's not just a bit. That's literally the thing the Prime Minister does.
Yeah.
Whereas Nigel Farage seems to want to clock off at sort of midday and go and have a liquid lunch, which isn't really possible as Prime Minister.
No.
He completely dominates
He's
the
not
agenda.
supreme at voting, though. He didn't even turn up and vote against the two-child benefit cap, so he can say all he wants.
And he didn't even turn up for the look. If there was one thing that Nigel Farage had to do as a member of Parliament, was to turn up to the debate surrounding the, readjusted deal with the EU thing, right? That was debated in Parliament. He wasn't even there. Look, you're Mr. Brexit, mate. You've said this is a betrayal of the British people, and you couldn't be bothered. Why are you in politics? Why do you want to be a member of Parliament?
Literally, it's just for feathering his own nest at the end of the day.
Yeah.
when it came to actually voting.
Hold on.
He didn't vote against it. Does voting matter or does it not?
I have to say,
Zach, why do you think it is that Nigel Farage is cutting through? Because he is cutting through with working class voters, and it is interesting.
On that point,
why do you think that is?
Yeah, he definitely.
First of all, by working class voters, we mean retired people who are from poorer areas and who did have working class jobs when they were working, but who have more asset wealth than actual working people today in a lot of cases, but they happen to have socially conservative views, right? Like, their areas are poor, certainly poorer areas, less overall funding for the councils and for local amenities, right? But the people themselves have more asset wealth than working people who are largely voting Labour, Lib Dem and Green. So, second of all, is Gawain Towler's neckerchief symbolic of working class support?
I think you'll find it's a cravat. Maybe, I don't know. By the way, that's where the term Croatia comes from. Or should I say Croatia exists and therefore the word cravat exists. Because it's a neckerchief of people from, roughly speaking, the Dalmatian coast in the French royal court.
Yeah, fair enough. I thought it was because it was the cravat of Bosnia.
What?
If you turn it the other way up.
Oh, right, no. Yes.
Is cutting through, so I'm not arguing on that. They're leading the polls at the moment. I think when you have populists, they don't need to talk about facts and information. They can just tell a powerful story.
Oh yeah, did you see Farage go, I've never once said that I was tried to portray myself as a populist?
Well, the thing is, it's because he didn't talk about populism with its correct definition. He said, I've never once been a populist. I've always had unpopular opinions I've tried to make popular. But that's not what populism is. Populism is a rhetorical strategy of the people versus the elites.
Yes.
What he's mistaking it for is popularism, which is about just triangulating what you believe to be the median position on everything.
Or indeed, he might be mixing it up with poplarism, which is when you try and win the votes of trees.
Farage is talking misinformation. On the left, we also need to learn from that. We need to tell powerful stories, but our stories need to be based in data, science, and evidence. So when I talk about reforms donations and Gawain just goes, no, it's not true, we need people to fact check that. Otherwise, reforms just come on. Who is holding them accountable? Who is making sure that they are not lying to the British public? And who is being transparent about where they're taking money from?
Well, you know who would be really good for this? Would be if we had a series of people who worked for, like, sort of media organisations like newspapers and radio stations and TV, who could like do a fucking journalism.
Or, in the absence of that, you can have independent journalists who do a much better job, but they don't have much money. So what you can do is you can support them by subscribing on Twitch for $4.99 or for free with Twitch Prime.
You had me there because I thought you were going to do a Navarra bit, and I was like, okay, I'll just let her. She's a company girl, just let her go. Fine, not a problem.
We're not Twitch streamers, we're journalists, right? To be fair, that's probably worse at this point. No,
Oh no, please, no, don't. No, you'd call me a fucking pedophile before you call me a journalist. Jesus Christ.
But yeah, please do subscribe on Twitch for $4.99. It gets you all the benefits of subscription, such as emotes and ad-free viewing and all the good stuff. And you can also drop bits for text-to-speech. Actually, no, I don't have text-to-speech. I'll read out your message at the very least. And you can also become a member on Kev's YouTube for 99p. You're still on YouTube as well.
Indeed. I'm glad Zachapp raided in 10 seconds after I'd said that thing. Hello there, Zachapp. And the Zachapp Raiders, much love. I am not a journalist, regardless of what you hear in the papers. Yes, you can hit the follow button and all the rest of it, and you can go and check out No Justice MTG, who is better. So go and hit the follow button there too. We're currently watching Zach Polanski roast a weird, sort of old, crusty guy from the Reform Party.
I mean, Bannig looks like a kind of like a TV character.
He does, yeah. He looks like one of those gross characters from Monkey Dust.
He does! Oh, your fucking God, he looks like... You're so right. That's perfect. That's absolutely
one
perfect.
Of those nasty old men with, like, you know, fucking fag-stained fingers and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
That's cigarette-stained for the fucking Twitch. Jesus Christ.
When they have policy
there's
positions...
a law. You have to actually state where your money comes from. There is a law.
Yes, which is why we know where it's coming from. So the media don't talk about it enough.
Right, okay.
True.
I have to say,
Yeah.
One of the reasons...
Okay, so he's got no answer to that. Cool. Okay, fair enough.
the Green Party haven't cut through is they haven't been able to do so. And in many ways, much as I disagree with Zach, he at least...
He looks like he birthed Mumford and Sons. It's an amazing burn. Who said that in chat? Who said that? Who fucking said that shit? Bryn. Honestly, Bryn, mate, I will suck you dry. That is amazing. Bravo. He really does. Oh...
It's the fight, and one doesn't see that from your other people in the party, and congratulations on that.
I'll take that as an endorsement.
Well, yeah, but fair enough. However,
won't help me though.
There is a point that, as I say, we are not embarrassed. We do not believe that net zero is a good policy in this country.
I think you should be embarrassed to be climate deniers.
I'm proud of wanting this country to do well.
In Lincoln, they're going to lose 12,000 jobs because of your mess.
We will come back to you for more friendly, and we need to keep it friendly.
No friendly. More anger, more conflict. Give us some content.
Yeah, and also we need to keep it friendly. He just came as close as you can to swearing without getting kicked off. You're talking balls, good sir. Like, he did the whole thing, and you didn't interrupt and go, come on now. Let's get a Queensberry rule, shall we? You know.
Also,
Justice Secretary Robert
people are asking about this weird character that we've got on the TV in front of us right now. And it's made me realise we've forgotten something.
Oh, we've got to check which school Gollum went to.
We have got a school check, right? So he went to University of York and studied philosophy, so it's not exactly like the most prestigious of universities, but it's like a very good university. But he did go for the private school, which is called Claysmore School, which is the most private school sounding name you've ever fucking heard in your life.
Yeah, exactly. Again, that's just a G.K. Chesterton bit. Yeah.
Endorse it.
Yeah.
Jenrick has shared footage of himself confronting
right,
people
there we go.
going
Let's go back to
London
question time.
Yeah, fuck this. Yeah, go away. Okay. Yeah, so I've got it roughly... Oh, that's a great pause as well.
Should we just go back to the start of the Ava Santina bit? Because we cut her off halfway through to get some context.
Oh, okay, we can do. But look at that freeze frame. Beautiful.
But that's where we got to, yeah, when she was... Yeah. Ooh,
Brand. Anyway, I just want to counter a few.
Just going to get my orientation correct. So I have to keep resizing it whenever we change. Because each bloody website has a different place where they put the video at a different size.
True. But you know what? Size doesn't matter. That's what you do with that.
Right, we're good to go.
Things that David has said there. David said that it's not the best way to counter child poverty. I want to totally disagree with him. Gordon Brown put out a report last week, which actually should have come from Labour, but Brown had to put it out because Labour refused to put out their long-awaited child poverty report. And he revealed that there will be 1 million children who could be lifted out of poverty just by adjusting these child benefit measures, the two-child benefit caps, sorry. The second thing is about taxpayer money. It will cost the taxpayer £3.5 billion, but it will save the taxpayer £40 billion in measures that are put in place to prevent these children from, what do I even say? I don't want to say dying, but honestly, this is really where we're at. We're talking about children. I've got friends who are teachers. My sister is a teacher. Children are going to school every single day hungry, and they may not be eating lunch at school because they don't have enough money for lunch. And then when they get home, their parents are splitting their meals between perhaps 3 or 4 children. I think the least we could do on a moral point is allow these parents to have an extra £17 a week so that a child doesn't go hungry.
Let me come back to you, Heidi. Because the man said, you say the economy is improving sufficiently to... Is it improving sufficiently to pay for...
See, like, he's a weird Tory. He just is. What Tory avidly claps giving money to poor people?
I mean, like, he's Harold Macmillan, I guess, is the kind of weird Tory that do that.
Yeah, like, literally, there was a brief period from 1947 to 1975... basically, where Tories weren't evil, or weren't as evil, you know.
I mean, maybe Tim Montgomery's just realised that he's essentially spent up to this point being the progenitor of a movement that has caused fucking untold death and destruction in this country. I'd like to hope so.
Yeah, but he's jumped from the frying pan into the fire with fucking Farage, hasn't he?
True.
Lifting the two-child benefit cap, reintroducing the winter fuel payment, to what extent we still don't know. And no future tax increases. Is it improving that much?
Well, that's the work that the Chancellor is going to have to do over the next couple of months before she delivers her autumn budget. We were clear when we had the budget last year that that was a once in a parliament type of budget. We committed in our manifesto not to increasing income tax, national insurance for working people, not putting up VAT, apart from getting rid of the VAT exemptions for people who send their children to private school. We're sticking to that commitment because we know that times are still really tough for people in terms of the cost of living. The Prime Minister has obviously made clear that he would like to see more pensioners eligible for the winter fuel payment beyond those who are receiving pension credit at the moment.
But why? You said it was going to destroy the economy if we didn't do it.
No, but we've had, like, less than a percentage point of growth in the first quarter of 2025, and that was the big difference.
Yeah, 100%, and not him losing all of the councils. Did I actually say go and follow Zach up? I don't know if I did, but you should.
Also, follow Zach Polanski as well.
Yeah, just in the street. Just follow him around and show him your tits.
We wouldn't like he's gay.
Well, exactly, so it's not even weird.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine.
Moment that is
he actually gay? I thought he was bi.
Yeah, he's gay.
Oh, I don't know. What I didn't realise, he wasn't born Polanski.
No, it was an adopted name from a relative.
Yeah, because the family came over as Jewish emigres and anglicised everything, and he went, no, fuck that noise. Family name, bitch. Which,
be
fair
proud
play.
of him.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Fuck yeah. Look, it's a shame that John Burko, it's John Berkowitz. That's his fucking name. But it's Burko, because English. Ugh, God, I hate it.
Of the brightening economic outlook, but
we
need to make sure that we've got the money there to pay for it, because we do know that when we walked into government, we inherited an abject mess when it came to the public finances. Conservative ministers spending beyond their means, and we had to do something to bring the budget into balance in year. And so that's why we took difficult decisions, but necessary decisions, because we couldn't risk a repeat of what happened.
No, you didn't take difficult decisions. You took shit decisions and decisions that were going to hurt the poorest in society.
Very easy ones.
Yeah, exactly. You've seen how taking even small, tiny steps against the rich fucks you up. With like the VAT on private schools, right? Tiny change, which affects very few people in a very small way. And yet it's been the fucking talk of the town. It's almost Chagusian in its fucking vastness as an issue.
Happened under Liz Truss. When the markets lost confidence in the government, we saw interest rates soaring, and it was ordinary people who were paying the price through increased mortgage payments and increased rents. And this government was never going to risk that.
OK, I'm going to move on. But before I do, I just want to tell you where we are going to be next week. We are going to the lovely North Wales coast, to Llandudno, and the week after that, we're off to the Lancashire coast, to Fleetwood. So if you live in or near either of those two places and you'd like to come and be a part of the Question Time audience, go to the website, apply there, and hopefully we will see you, Llandudno or Fleetwood. OK.
I mentioned earlier on someone talking about dating being more difficult. Was a survey saying it was dating was difficult because of the economy. For some reason it came up on my Twitter feed when I was just looking at it when she was doing some boring shit, and reminded me of somebody replying to, because this Politics Joe put it out, and someone replied saying, well, "What has this got to do with politics?" And I'm just like, yeah, that famously apolitical thing, the economy.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. I love it when they'll do like, Star Wars. Why are you going to be political? It's literally an allegory for the fucking Nazis. What?
It's an allegory for the Vietnam War.
Well, I thought well, okay, maybe. Well, I don't know. I thought my understanding was it was the Empire was the Nazis, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, he uses Nazi imagery, but I think I don't think he said it specifically, but I think he's using Nazi imagery to try and draw the link between the Nazi imperialism to American imperialism in Vietnam. But he specifically said that the Rebel Alliance are supposed to be the Viet Cong.
Oh, okay. But we can all agree that Greedo shot first, right?
True. And obviously, and what's interesting as well is that in the prequels, that's an allegory for the war in Iraq. And he specifically compared Donald Rumsfeld to Darth Sidious.
There are known unknowns. Yes, thank you, Katie. Who says obligatory jump scare, Kev. Thank you. Well, you did. You got what you wanted. Are you happy? Are you proud of yourself? I hope so.
Lewis Howard, where are you sitting? Right, let's hear from you.
Is the latest pay demand by doctors of 29% justified, or will it put UK PLC into permanent life support?
We are not a PLC. Stop it. Also, they're not going to get 29%, and they know they're not. It's what you hold out as the opening bargaining position, and then you negotiate down from there. Obviously.
As anyone who's worked in sales will tell you, if you go in with your final offer, that's a really stupid negotiating tactic.
Yeah. Surely Palpatine was closer to Karl Rove. Well, I mean, yeah. Literally, was it Family Guy that literally did that joke of Karl Rove being like Palpatine?
I don't know.
Yeah, it was a very good episode. Every time he entered the room, a wolf howled in the distance. It was very funny.
David, I'm interested what you have to, because your wife is a doctor, and also you've sat on an NHS trust. So just to remind us, there was a very long strike. I'm sure you all remember 44 days of industrial action over a year and a half during the last government, one of the longest industrial disputes in history. That was resolved by the current government very soon after they got into office, and doctors were offered a pay rise of 22% over the past 2 financial years. The doctors now want 29%. Is that justified?
The NHS as a body is pretty efficient at what it does. You know, the healthcare that we receive and the outcomes that we get as a country are pretty good. But this pay dispute is part of a bigger picture that we can see going on. Now, we know the independent assessment says all of the growth in the economy, all of it, is down to rising household bills. And we also know that the government's level of borrowing to bridge the gap between what it's raising in tax and what it's spending is getting bigger and bigger. £20 billion last month alone, a huge record. So I think the question is absolutely going.
Again, it's really worth pointing out, again, I don't want to defend Rachel Reeves, but I'm going to, that when they say the money they're spending more than they're taking in tax, when it comes to the operational expenditure, that's all being covered by tax receipts. That is the first fiscal rule. What the second fiscal rule states is that borrowing is used to finance capital expenditure. And these two things are different, right? This idea that somehow the deficit is not being paid down, well, it's being spent on assets. Those assets hold value for the government, which is why you can borrow for them, because they make revenue in the long term. I think you can borrow to fund day-to-day spending as well, because I'm a modern monetary theory enjoyer, because that's how government spending works. You're a sovereign currency issue. As long as you can grow the economy appreciably through that spending, it doesn't really matter. But even if you just take Rachel Reeves' fiscal rules at their word and you support them, that you shouldn't worry about whether the deficit is increasing as long as it's being spent on capital expenditure, because that will generate revenue in the long term.
I thought the first rule of Fight Club was don't mention Fight Club. No?
To the heart of a problem. Now, I know there's been a lot of debate in Parliament about the way the government have approached government payroll pay deals, that we've seen record pay awards, 12-13% for train drivers, people like that, with nothing in return in terms of improved efficiency and public services. So we need to make sure.
It's so annoying, right? These motherfuckers starved people for a decade or more. And now the Labour Party are doing vaguely decent things in terms of trying to recoup some of that for those workers in order to stop the strikes as well. Which, by the way, you don't mention the productivity losses of your record-breaking strikes, you prick. Right? The Tories get to say, oh, see, they're just handing out massive contracts to their friends, or whatever. It's ridiculous. The union barons have won again. No, you didn't pay anyone for a decade.
And again, like, these are people who are integral. I'll start again. These people are integral to the functioning of the economy, right?
Yeah.
I wonder how integral Michelle Mone was to the functioning of the economy.
No, we all saw this. When the PR wankers went home during COVID, the country ran just fine. If someone isn't stacking the beans in the local supermarket, the country comes to a grinding halt.
That we're getting value for money for the taxpayer.
So is the 29% pay increase, the demand that's coming from the British Medical Association, is that justified?
It's not affordable. I think that's the bottom line. Doctors are a really important part of our workforce, as are nurses. It is right that we see increases in pay over time, but that level of pay rise...
Maybe if we give them a 29% increase in the times we bang pots and pans together, because they can definitely pay their bills with that, can't they?
A time when the national finances are under a degree of strain is simply not fair, when there are lots of other...
Why are why are they under strain? Can you tell us that? Can you tell us, Mr. Simmons, why the national finances might be under some fucking strain? Perhaps. Jesus Christ. Thank you to Katie Marshall with 5 gifted memberships. By the way, everyone go and follow Jesus Christ. Mad Cat Scotty Eye.
Priorities that we need to address at the same time.
Can I just interject there slightly? So I don't know if any of you have seen, but Robert Jenrick today, who perhaps might be the next leader of the Conservative Party, has been in a London train station complaining that no one is seizing these people who aren't paying their full fare. They're avoiding their tickets, and he's really furious about it. And what's really interesting about that is that they cut all of the ticket inspectors and they cut all of the police that were meant to man these stations.
And we put the staff on the platform to address it directly, which is where they needed to be.
Can you believe that these train drivers are getting more money, or can you believe that people want more cash? Listen, you're the king of cuts. Like, I think basically we can just kind of, we can stop here and we can basically just assume that they don't want to pay for anything, but they want the same level of service.
But as a country, we need to live within our means, and that's the bottom line.
So
You got rinsed, mate. You got rinsed. Very simply, one of the first round of applause is this dude's a wanker.
Again, do you know what? So I mean, Tory's totally cooked. It's over. It's over.
It's over, mate. You're done.
But if the doctors were, I mean, one of the reasons the doctors give for wanting 29% pay rise on top of the 22% is they're saying we want to take our pay back to what it was in 2008, and they feel that they've lost out on that. When you look at public sector pay over that period, it's been pretty much flat for all public sector workers over that period. So why should doctors get 29% as opposed to anyone else?
Well, can I present you the alternative?
To be fair, who's this in chat who said it? Vicky says, that's not a lefty point, Ava. More prison guards isn't the answer. Firstly, we're not talking about prison guards. It's like people stopping fare dodging. And secondly, the point is, if Robert Jenrick wants to complain that no one is stopping the fare dodging, why was he a part of a government that stopped the people from stopping the fare dodging? Was the point.
Also, yeah, that's true. But I think a stronger argument is to talk about the fact that, well, we nitpick over people not paying their train fare, and yet we don't expect multimillionaires and billionaires to contribute back into society, especially not when they are building their huge wealth off of the work of the people in this country, you know?
Well, exactly, yeah. We'll criminalise someone for not paying their £5 fare to get to Canary Wharf, and not the criminals inside Canary Wharf.
Exactly.
Which is that these NHS doctors decide that they're going to move to Australia or they are going to move into the private sector, and then the government has to pay the private sector to have those same doctors working back in the NHS hospitals. It is totally nonsensical.
I do think that Ava is right to say that the NHS actually operates in a global market when it comes to staff, and actually doctors
Jesus
can...
Christ.
So boring.
I was just about to say, like, you're not necessarily going to match Ava for, like, bubbliness and, you know, nice and blah, blah, blah. But, like, she's such a far more likeable human being. And you hear her, she's talking positively and passionately about a thing in a nice, accepting, kind of cool way. And then you go to this robot droid whose humanity has been stamped out of them by the Westminster machine. Just this husk of a human.
And this is the person who replaced Lou Haig, like one of the very, very few genuinely like human-seeming members of the
Exactly.
cabinet.
The one human who spoke up and said a vaguely sensible thing has been replaced by robot droid fucking 3000 here.
Yeah, literally. It shows you who Labour Party is on the side of. The only reason Heidi
P&O,
Alexander is here is because because Lou Haig said that P&O were fucking law-breaking motherfuckers. Not in those words, but they are. They are
Because they were, yeah. She told the truth, and that will not be tolerated.
Literally, they were so desperate for effort to get FDI from DP World. They fired a government minister who was like the only one who approached having any kind of soul.
Yeah.
get jobs abroad, and that is something that we do need to consider as a government. You know, I understand why junior doctors, resident doctors want to see their pay restored to the level it would have been at if it had gone up with inflation. But we can't afford to do that at the moment, is the truth of the matter. So what they have had in terms
You're
of...
very, very boring and your reasoning is shit and no one believes you. Every time you don't want to do a thing, because again, it's about choices, you either want to do it or you don't want to do it, you'll just say we can't afford it.
Yep.
And no one believes you. Because we've already seen you give... And again, I don't want to bring this up because, again, I generally support the Ukrainian cause. But the point being, you're giving out 100-year fucking deals to Ukraine with £3 billion a year attached to it. The fuck?
Yeah.
What? So the people alive now, their great-grandkids are going to have to fucking pay for that. And yet you're telling me that what fucking granny's got to freeze. It's not a viable argument to use. People will not believe you. They will vote for anyone but you because they know you're lying. It's very obvious.
The pay increase last year, which brought an end to those strikes that were ravaging the NHS. If you look at the last 3 years, it would have been in effect a 29% pay increase. It's a 5.4% pay increase this year. We're also giving, over the last 2 years, a 2,000 pay increase to a Band 5 nurse. And we're actually recognising the contribution that people across the public sector make. Our teachers, our prison staff.
Okay, but coming back to doctors, do you think when it comes to the
prison staff,
demand
brilliant.
for 29%, do you think they're justified, they should get it, but the country just can't afford it? Or do you think they're asking for too much?
I think they're asking for too much now. Because we can't, and Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, has appealed directly to junior doctors, resident doctors, to work
on
with
behalf
him.
of his paymasters in the private care industry. Yeah. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget that this quote-unquote Labour Party has a health secretary paid for by the private healthcare industry. As if that's remotely tolerable.
Him now because
500
we
fucking
do
votes.
need to turn the NHS around. We have given those very significant pay increases. I think there was public sympathy for the junior doctors being on strike when they were getting below inflation pay rises. But we are in a different world now. We've got a new government that's determined to work with them.
Can I just ask, because often we do have people from the NHS here in the audience, have we got a doctor in the house? Aha! Right. What do you think? Is this 29% pay rise justified?
I find myself in a very difficult position with this discussion. First thing I'd like to say is the 22% that everyone's bandying about is a very general figure. We didn't all get that. I got a 1.29% pay rise last year, and originally the government offered me 0, and the BMA advised me to accept.
But you are very, very posh. So, like, I'm not that, like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad you're a doctor, that's nice. But I suspect you can always go back to your country's family pile. Or family's country pile, whatever.
I mean, doctors are in some of the highest kind of upper echelons of working in this country, but I think it is, first of all, deserved, and second of all, we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice about whether or not we pay doctors a good amount of money, because they have the kind of unique skill set that makes them internationally in demand. If we don't pay them a good wage, they will go to Australia. That's the problem that we have,
and
right?
We're in the even worse situation of not only are they actively begging our doctors to go there because it's really good for them, but also they don't have to learn any new languages. It's not like taking a Chinese doctor or something. Like you have to. We've got very, very rich countries who all speak English who desperately need our doctors and are prepared to pay for that.
Yep. And on top of this, like, that's money that we've spent educating somebody, taking them from cradle to adulthood, that the state has invested in, that has paid the down payment on their kind of future contribution to society, and then another country is reaping all of those rewards, you know?
Yeah.
But again, there is no such thing as society, so why would you feel like that you should continue to contribute to the country that gave you that start, you know?
And he is very posh.
Accept that. I've been a doctor for 31 years. I'm at the top of my pay scale. And because I'm in a closed grade, the thought was that I'm worth no more money than I was 12 years ago. Because it is a fact
that's disgusting, yeah. Like, if you're a doctor who is experienced, especially, we should be desperate to keep you in place. Obviously, what the fuck? No, don't get me wrong, you don't just, like, pay infinitely, exponentially or anything, but that's not what they're asking for. Pay me so that at least the amount of money you're giving me now is at least the same as it was 12 years ago. Whereas actually they're basically being asked to take a massive pay cut on what they were earning when they were less experienced.
Also, apparently they're called resident doctors now. That changed in September. They're not called junior doctors.
Oh, okay.
Oil like a baby otter.
That probably makes sense, because junior doctor always seemed like a quite scary thing. Like, that you're basically saying this person's inexperienced. Which is not what you want to hear from a doctor, really.
Yeah, they're just not like a consultant or a specialist.
Well, exactly, yeah. So you just resident.
Oil like a baby otter.
Thank you to Mellow Maggot for 5 gifted subs. Much love.
Sadly, under the previous government, we had pay restraint, which resulted in effectively 0% pay rises
like
for
a
10 of the
baby
12
otter.
years. So our pay did fall significantly behind comparable professions. We had a pay review body that wasn't independent. It is more independent now, although it still accepts as part of its terms of reference what the government can afford.
So you're saying you're in a difficult position when it comes to 29%.
Because-
Why? Do you not support it?
Resident doctors, as we now call junior doctors, received a fairly significant pay deal over the last 3 years. When I was a resident junior doctor a very long time ago, I was paid significantly less than them. Times have changed.
It sounds to me like you're working your way towards saying you don't support it, but you feel
I've got to be
uncomfortable
very
doing
difficult
so.
what I say, because I have a lot of colleagues, and I also am a BMA representative.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Like, there is such a thing as solidarity, you understand? Even if you think they are asking for too much, fine, fuck it, let them ask for too much. Like, I've never had a problem with anyone demanding anything like that, because, like, ultimately, either the bosses or the fucking government or whatever are going to try and negotiate down from that position. So yeah, ask for fucking 29%, ask for 50%, fuck it.
But again, it's worth pointing out what we said at the start, that as a negotiating position, then they won't get the full amount, right?
Yeah, of course.
There is a political issue here, which is that people are far less likely to support public sector striking workers when there is a Labour government. Like, they feel like that they're being taken for a ride by the representatives politically of the unions, working with the union representatives themselves to essentially take money from the broader population to give it to their clique, right?
Yeah.
That's not true in the long and short of it, right? The current government are definitely very hostile to unions more broadly, but there's also part of the fact that there are some people in government who know that that's the perception, so they want to avoid it at all costs, you know?
Yeah.
It was much easier to get away with it when it was the unions versus the Tories.
Indeed. Thank you, Zozzle Snake with Bitty Bits, who says, how many strikes have there been in Scotland? Well, okay, yeah, that's true. There haven't been that many strikes in Scotland. In fact, virtually none at all. But that's because you're subsidised with England's oil. Yeah, it's all ours. We're just going to redistrict it all. It's our oil. You see what I did? I channeled my inner Thatcher.
So come on, listen, you stuck your hand up.
I did.
Is the 29% pay rise justified or not?
I think the aspiration of junior doctors, which is to get back to pay parity, so to have their pay restored to where it should be, is laudable and is completely fair. Over what time period that's achieved is really what's up for debate. So, yes, I would agree that pay should be restored. Whether it's restored very quickly, I agree, is probably unrealistic.
All right. The man at the back with the glasses.
I've got a lot of family and friends that are either trained to be doctors or early years doctors, and a lot of the time they're being dragged all over the country to take on jobs that they can't either get at home, or just as part of their training they have to go to the other end of the country, away from their family and support systems. Is it not fair for them to at least get pay parity with what they were on 15 years ago?
Okay. Nadia.
Like, this is the sort of broader point, I think, that, like, we used to be able to do anything, right? We used to be able to build trains, and now we can't. We used to be able to build, motorways, and now we can't. We used to have a functioning fucking democracy of some kind, and now we don't. Like, there are things that we used to be able to do and be able to afford really not that long ago. I'm not talking about some Victorian shit. I'm talking, like, very much within living memory. And, we were able to pay doctors 20 years ago a pretty decent wage. And rightly so. They do an amazing work without which our country would fucking collapse. but now we can't for some reason.
I think that's a problem that we've had, is that taxation revenue from the government is broadly comparative with economic growth, right? And as you grow the economy, that will increase the amount of tax you take. Yet the pay demands are essentially with regards to inflation. So if inflation is larger than economic growth during that period, the ratio of the amount of money the government is taking in is going down relative to the cost of living for people who are being paid by the public sector. So in reality, there probably is a case that some would say, I would disagree, I think you should be having higher taxes to ensure that we can keep these things up by taxing the rich, because they have got fabulously wealthy even without the economic growth that's there. So that's a big problem that we have in terms of equality. There'll probably people out there say, well, we can't afford it because we've not had the comparative increase in taxable revenue to be able to afford to do that for every single public sector worker, which you'd have to be able to justify given how much this is. Well, then you've got to point out who was the failure in terms of getting our economy to the point where we wouldn't be having this reduction in overall provision of public sector wages. And of course, it's the Conservatives, because they did austerity, which is, of course, the way we're going to be if we continue to not do things that we can afford to do just because we've not grown the economy enough to pay for them, right? We'll just end up in this austerity doom loop.
Indeed, and as Vicky points out, as sewage systems and reservoirs, for a while the quality of our waterways were improving. Indeed, when we had nationalised water, things may not have been perfect, but we were building infrastructure and we had a functioning system. Whereas now, this news story from today, drinking water shortage in decade without new reservoirs, Minister says. Why are there no new reservoirs being built? Another privatisation success story.
Phil Kilm says, why is no one pointing out how Australia can afford to pay their doctors a good wage but the UK can't? It's because they didn't do austerity. It's as simple as that. They didn't do austerity and public sector pay freezes for 14 bloody years. Really simple. It's really simple.
And they're criminals. That's also true. Don't forget, Zakat viewers. You can hit the follow button.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dock Authority, as well. We had one of the best sewage treatment systems in the world before privatisation. Very true. You didn't get upkept enough by the private sector.
Indeed.
Situation, I've got friends who are junior doctors, and the reason that they're considering moving abroad or leaving the profession entirely is purely because of the pay they're getting and the conditions they're working under. Hospital roofs are leaking, there are insufficient beds, and they can go and work abroad in a hospital that's kitted out with the latest equipment, and they know at least that their patients aren't going to get wet from a leaking shower upstairs. That's why junior doctors...
Right, but you got to bear in mind killer spiders.
True.
Is it worth it? Really? Killer spiders, or potentially, if you're a bit brown, being sent to Guatemala or El Salvador or some shit. So, like, Canada, you're probably alright in Canada, to be fair. Moose? You might get gored by a moose.
Doctors are leaving the NHS, not because the politicians are...
Or if you go to Quebec, you might be racism.
conflicting with them.
And do you worry about whether the country can afford it?
Of course it's a concern, but isn't health of the population one of the most important factors when considering government policy?
Yes.
This is absolutely your...
That's the point! That's just going to be just ignored. That's literally the point. Isn't public health the fucking point of this?
Yep.
No, it's just how can we spend less money and hopefully not affect the frontline services, even though that's literally impossible.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Area. In terms of hospital and primary care, is the 29% pay justified? Do the Lib Dems support it?
It's a good question, and I'd need to see the figures to work out whether that feels affordable. I
Okay.
think
You must be across it. This is your brief.
You know how we could afford it.
Rejoin the EU.
Hey, we used to
yes.
we can fund it with the Remain bonus.
The Remain bonus and the fucking 5p bag tags and the skills wallets.
For people who don't know what that's referencing, in the costings document for the 2019 manifesto, the Liberal Democrats had a £40 billion Remain bonus that basically paid for all of their pledges that they just plucked out of thin air.
Yeah, that's good. Well, look, is it any less fairy tale numbers than any other capitalist approach to this?
True.
Just make sure it's numbers on a screen. Who gives a fuck?
So do
Absolutely.
you,
And
as
when
spokesperson for the Lib Dems on hospitals, that's the doctors we're talking about, do you support it?
Do you know what I support? I support making sure that all of our doctors and support staff working in hospitals...
See, the Lib Dems are going up in the world. They've now got so many MPs. They've got spokespeople just for hospitals. It used to be a situation where you used to have like the healthcare and transport and maybe, I don't know, fucking culture,
Cops.
media, and sport all as one. Whereas now they've got they have to dole out, junior ministerial briefs to people. What? Fair play, Lib Dems. You've done well. You don't deserve to have, but you have spectacularly recovered from your great betrayal.
Can go to work and, like the gentleman said, work in a hospital
That's not
where they
answering the
haven't
question.
got
Do you support?
where
Well,
they
Jess,
haven't
this
got
is your
their-
policy area. Do you support it or not?
And what I support is the government should be focusing on getting the 40 new hospitals that the Conservatives promised and were never going to deliver actually built. And I support making sure that the hospital estates work and function so that people aren't giving birth in rooms where the ceiling's falling down.
Is that an
or
answer
where
to the
water's
question?
coming down through the ceiling.
No, come on, Jess.
Fucking
Put your money where your mouth
Lib
is.
Dems.
Yes or no?
Literally, was that answering the question? No.
I love how she's pulling a Wallace. She's pulling the face that Wallace does when he goes, "We forgot the crackers."
Rejoin the EU, Gromit.
I think I'd have to look at the figures, but it feels like a big number.
Oh, for
it feels
fuck!
like a very, very
You're
big
the
number.
spokesperson. You're the spokesperson for hospitals. Why haven't you looked at those figures already? Why don't you know the numbers? You're not even the NHS, just hospitals, and you don't know the numbers. Well, frankly, you don't deserve to be in your position then.
The Liberal Democrats treating policy as seriously as they always do.
Yeah, you don't get to just go to the head of the NHS England and go one-on-one me at FIFA. You need to actually cover your fucking brief, for God's sake.
And the irony is that these are the people who people try and say are the grown-up version of the progressive opposition to Labour, when first of all they're not progressive, and their approach to fucking sensible politics is not know their fucking brief before being on the prime time political discussion programme on the public broadcaster.
Yeah.
These are not serious people.
No, and it wouldn't be so bad if they were transport or something, but this is literally your fucking brief. And I'll have to have a look at the numbers. Yeah, you probably should.
Someone say I'll take that as a no. Tim.
Literally getting heckled, and then the chair going, I will just repeat that heckle so everyone hears. Brilliant.
Sometimes I'm glad that I'm a pundit rather than a politician, because some of the decisions that people like Heidi make are incredibly difficult. And the fact is, over the next 25 years, Britain's going to have to find £200 billion extra in its budget to pay for our ageing population. I could mention a whole range of other pressures that are going to be on the public finances. We're an old country, frankly. And at the moment, the danger is, if you look at the size of the British state, we could look to... The NHS takes an ever greater percentage of our national income and the tax take. And in the future, we may sort of look like a country which basically has an NHS, a pension system, and perhaps an army attached to it. What that means for schools, local government, etc., is real. And these are the...
Well, we won't need any, because the schools will have fallen down. We'll just be teaching them in fields or something. Do it by email. We can do it by email now, it'd be fine.
School from home.
Yeah, do it Zoom. I'm not... Oh, do I have to go up for Zoom today, Mum? Oh.
These decisions that people in government have to wrestle with all of the time. And so, look, we all love doctors. Of course we do. But... There was an independent pay review body. You were very honest, I think. You didn't quite say it, but I think reading between the lines, you know it's unaffordable what your colleagues are asking for. This independent pay review body has said the junior doctors will get something more than nurses, more than teachers, and yet they still want more. And doctors are great, but they have a lot more security, a lot better pensions, than other people who actually have to tour the country for their jobs as well. People in the private sector earn an awful lot less. It has to be about give and take. And they was right to say, yes, we're in an international global market, but actually our doctors were paid in a similar way to most other doctors in Europe.
Right, but firstly, we're not talking about Europe mostly, we're talking about America and Australia. And secondly, it's not just pay, is it? It's the feeling that the government fucking hates them. It's the fact that the hospitals are crumbling around them to the point where you can't have MRI machines on the second floor because it might collapse and kill everybody. Like that, why would you want to work in that condition when you can go to an actual functioning hospital in Sydney or Melbourne or something? Like, of course you fucking would. And it's sunny there, and they win at cricket. Although we did win at cricket today, but let's not go into that.
I mean, it was against the West Indies, so...
Yeah, and they were fucking embarrassing. Jesus, how the mighty have fallen.
True. Malcolm O'Shea is very
So
open.
it's about affordability. And at some point in the next few years, if we're not careful, we'll be going cap in hand to the IMF again. We have to start taking tough decisions, and I'm afraid this is probably one of them.
Right, but what are we going to go to the IMF for? They can't force us to privatise things we've already privatised. So why would they bother giving us any money?
The thing is, ironically, the IMF basically don't do that anymore. The IMF essentially have admitted now that their entire structural readjustment paradigm that they did for decades and decades and decades was shit and just ruined countries in the global south through debt traps. And they've kind of, we got that one wrong. The IMF and I basically have gone woke. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, the IMF
my God. They need to change it to the DEI then, clearly.
Yeah, true. Yeah, DEIMF. And so they've essentially said a bunch of things, and that they've stopped doing the same kind of structural readjustment programs they used to do, and they're far more Keynesian in their approach to government policy. In fact, when they were looking at European growth more broadly in the period after the inflationary crisis, they were essentially saying that the biggest driver of growth in these countries was wage growth. It was additional demand power of working people, and not how many billionaires you've got, or the level of entrepreneurial spirit your country has. Like, was the kind of thing that they used to try and say needed to ferment in your country if you wanted structural readjustment money, was you have to give the private sector the power to drive growth. And actually, it's working people having more money that drives growth, and they've now admitted that, which is good.
Well, I was only joking, but thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Vicky, with a donation who says, just checking my card still works. I'm sure there was a more productive way of doing that, but thank you nonetheless.
If anyone else wants to check if their card works, Twitch subscriptions are only $4.99.
True. And thank you, Politics Clive, which, by the way, that is a good name, who says, no message, which ironically is itself a message. So, I mean, we've got a surrealist in chat.
Let's take a couple more points from the audience. Man at the very back with his hand up in the blue shirt.
Asking for so much money at the same time that the government is cutting 50% from NHS England, 50% from the local ICBs, there's going to be no management left. I mean, the extra money is going to have to go towards the doctors managing the work themselves.
All right, and this man here.
So, because the government are shit in other areas, they should also be shit in this area. Thank you.
Yes, I'm curious to know, when will any party of any description, any flavour, come to the realisation that there's no upper limit with the spend on the NHS? Number one. And whilst we all want to remain healthy, thank you, I think it's part of the fact that we need to manage expectations.
You can manage your expectations as you arc through the air from my fucking trebuchet, mate.
We can't fix everyone all the time for everything. So expectation management, what is the NHS here for?
Okay, I'm guessing you and your kids are worth saving, but everyone else can fuck off. Am I right? Am I in the right ballpark as to what you think is worth spending money on and what isn't?
Yeah, that's the way we fix the aging society problem and the strains on the NHS. Just let old people die.
Yeah. Well, you know what? He's got quite a lot of grey hair, so I reckon he's not productive anymore. Get him in the pod.
Now, not what it was there for in 1948 or whenever. I think that's missing from the discussion. We should continue to review what it's here.
It's so funny that he would even bring up 1948. Like, we'd just been through the most destructive war in mankind's history. Our major cities laid in fucking ruins. And we created the NHS. Like, we are infinitely richer than we were then. And yet somehow we can't afford anything.
Like, just in fiscal terms.
It's ridiculous.
Our debt to GDP ratio was 250%.
Yeah,
in 1945.
America owned us. Literally, like they just bought us. That's what happened there, in order to stop the Nazis.
Yeah, literally, and what's debt to GDP ratio now at 95% or so, right?
Yeah.
Come on, have some ambition, lad. Have some ambition.
And now we need to build houses, not because we don't have any houses, because they're in rubble, but because we just haven't been building any fucking houses.
We just forgot.
Literally, Thatcherite fucking house building policy has done more damage than the Luftwaffe did.
Literally.
Here for and what it should do. And yes, doctors should be paid what they deserve and worth.
Fuck off.
Maybe you're grimacing or something.
Am I misunderstanding you? I thought you were suggesting that we should decide who lives or dies. Am I misunderstanding that? You're saying that the health service can't provide what it did after Attlee's government, and so now we have to...
Okay, let's let him answer.
Yeah, yes, you're completely misunderstanding.
What were you saying? Sorry.
I'm saying we should make a decision along the next few years about what it can and can't do.
But then that's...
That's what he was saying then.
Yeah, what it can and can't do, as in what things it can save you from and which things it's just going to let you die from. Which, like, okay, I mean, you can do a pirouette, but it's the same fucking landing spot, mate. Like, you're just doing extra steps.
It's worth pointing out, we already do this. Like, we do already do this in the NHS. There is a thing called quality adjusted life years, which is a metric by which that we make decisions on whether you're worth saving or not, based upon how much money we can spend and whether or not that would actually give you a good amount of extra time living, you know? Right? Like, we're not going to spend £1 million so that you live an extra 5 days, you know? Obviously, that's an extreme example, but broadly, this is the approach that we take, where we say, well, you know, is it really worth curing somebody of something that is incurable or prolonging their life a certain amount of time by spending a huge amount of money? Now, I think the current index that we have for that is pretty well calculated in terms of not being too mean, not being too dismissive of people, which we could spend money on to keep them alive for a good amount of time, right? But what it does do is it cuts out a bunch of things that people can happily spend private money on, but it would not be worth doing so to, as I said, make someone live for a very short period of time for a very large amount of money.
This somewhat a wag in chat has described this as the shipman strategy. It does.
Oh, dear.
There's a certain ghoulishness, a kind of dead behind the eyes shipman-esque nature to him. Yeah.
Leading into privatisation, and I really do think as a country we need to be very wary about the sort of bad faith actors who are advertising privatising the NHS, because I promise you there is not a politician out there who is not doing it for personal financial gain.
Sorry, do you just want to clarify that? Ava, who are you talking about?
Well, look, I cannot imagine that a single... Okay, right, if we're going to be frank.
Where's streeting? Literally, the health secretary has taken money from private healthcare. Where's streeting?
Exactly. You look, every doctor has a very convenient list of people who've had taken donations which have links to private healthcare. You can go and look at it for yourself and you'll find out where streeting is swimming in it.
Yep.
He's swimming in it.
There are many...
Frank and not libelous, obviously.
Frank and not libelous. I've done this before.
It's not just politicians as well. It is not just politicians that take money to support NHS privatisation. The hedge fund that funds GB News, the biggest funder, because it's owned by Paul Marshall, the hedge fund's called Marshall Wace, has £500 million worth, or it was maybe £50 million worth, either way, millions and millions of pounds worth of investments in private healthcare, or companies that do private healthcare provision, right? They are absolutely funding GB News to talk down the NHS and to support the idea of moving to a funding model. These people employ Nigel Farage, who explicitly has this as a policy that they run on. They're explicit in wanting to remove public funding from the NHS and to make it insurance funded. It's all unique. It's all part of the same ecosystem.
Yeah.
I think that you should be very wary when a politician is advertising moving into the private sector, because typically people who would like to push those sort of beliefs or ideas...
You're talking about like private insurance policies,
private
that kind
insurance
of thing.
policies. It doesn't work. Health is a monopoly. And if it was your family member that was being told you've either got to pay a deductible of £100,000 or you're going to die, you would be pretty furious that a politician convinced you into voting for private healthcare. It doesn't come without some sort of back pocket reward, and I think that we should watch very carefully at the sort of politicians who are advertising private healthcare at this point.
Also, pause. She only mentioned...
Didn't mention names, so that's legal.
Yeah, what's interesting is what's important is she only... I'll start that again. In that bit there, she only mentioned the insurance part of, like, NHS privatisation, right? The other biggest problem that we have in terms of NHS privatisation is private contract. So it's still paid for through taxation, but it is a private contract rather than public ownership. And that's what Wes Streeting is selling. That's the snake oil that Wes Streeting sells. The solution to the NHS crisis is to just incentivise the private sector to do it for them, where you get worse value for money because you're paying for shareholder dividends as well as all of the actual provision of the service. And on top of this, you're incentivising... They have worse outcomes.
Yeah.
They also have worse outcomes as well.
Yeah, exactly, because they're not there to make sure that the hospital functions better. They're there to make sure they make more money. So
Exactly.
they cut corners. We saw this. The spread of MRSA was absolutely linked to the privatising of the cleaning of hospitals, which people cut back on, and so the hospitals got dirtier. It's not surprising.
Okay. Who are you talking about exactly?
Well, now we're going to stray into libelous.
Well, it's
aren't
either
we?
true or it's not true. Stand by your allegation or don't.
Okay. I'm going to be careful.
Okay, I shall leave it there. Let's move on.
Oh, you should say, where's fucking Streeting?
I think she's talking about private insurance, but the thing is that when people are really careful when they discuss the NHS. So Wes Streeting talks about private subcontraction, but doesn't talk about any changes to the NHS model of being publicly funded free at the point of use. Those are the two main pillars of NHS as a system: is the Beveridge model, publicly funded free at the point of use. Wes Streeting sticks to both of those things because private sector subcontraction still fits that model. It's just money is being fed from the public sector into the private sector through contracts. So that is essentially that is the capital, the socialisation of the gains essentially.
Yeah.
When Nigel Farage speaks about NHS privatisation, he still says free at the point of use, but he doesn't say publicly funded. So what he wants and what he publicly says is the policy is they want to change funding through taxation to funding through people paying insurance premiums. Now, that isn't necessarily having a private insurer. It's having a public insurance system which has private sector subcontraction as well. He's very careful not to advocate for the American model itself, which is what Ava Santina is referring to here. Yeah. But would I rule out Nigel Farage potentially wanting to look at an American model because it's better for profiteers? That remains to be seen.
Move on. Let's move on.
But you might.
Let's move on. Let's take another question. Okay, Heather Dallow, there you are in your yellow cardie. Let's hear from you.
Do the police have the resources and finance to manage early release prisoners?
Can you give it
are
to them?
victims of crime
We did this all
being
fucking last
denied
week. Skip to the next
justice?
one.
Saw a chance to quote Gandalf
One
and took
second.
it.
Apologies. Sozzle Snake with the perfectly timed thing there meant I didn't hear a fucking word of the question. What was it about?
It was about early release prisoners. Identical question to what we had last week.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about that. Early release prisoners. Do we have another question?
Yeah.
Gaza. Okay.
Impose sanctions on.
So that they've just asked the question, then looks like it.
Yeah.
Issue in prison, house at home.
And thousands of babies dying.
All right. I'm going to try and squeeze in this last question. We've got about 10 minutes. It deserves longer than that, but I'm sure we will revisit this subject. Ben Newton, let's hear from you.
Are sanctions really the best we can do when faced with mass starvation and thousands of babies dying in Gaza?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know if it's thousands, we don't know the number at all.
Yeah, we do. Stop lying. And secondly, what fucking sanctions? We haven't done any sanctions. Yeah, like, literally, we said, oh, we're going to stop negotiation on a free trade agreement. And then our international fucking free trade envoy, Lord Austin, was in Tel Aviv this week. So, like, so we're not even the really pathetic non-intervention strategy of, like, tut. We didn't even do that. We literally didn't even do the tutting. That's how pathetic our response is.
And we are still sending military aircraft over Gaza, doing reconnaissance for Israel from RAF Akrotiri. That has not stopped.
And still presumably selling them loads and loads of fucking weapons, although we won't learn about that for another 6 months or whatever, and they'll poo-poo it when it happens.
Yep.
Because they're wankers. And, of course, today Israel announced a massive expansion in settlements in the West Bank. So it's not just Gaza, they're doing land grabs left, right and centre, because that's what Zionism is. A cancerous tumour that will grow and grow until it is stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho,
You're advocating radiotherapy. That sounds like a bad plan.
Of sorts, a metaphorical radiotherapy.
Okay, as long as it's only metaphorical.
Yeah, no, it's a spiritual, radiotherapy in the form of like the American government doing anything to stop it at all. Thank you, Salsa Snake, with the bits. That's a weird reference, but thank you very much.
The situation in Gaza is clearly horrific for individuals. Israel is defending its right to take the action that it is taking.
I don't care. The Nazis defended their right to do Auschwitz. I don't give a fuck.
Yep, literally. I mean, like Milosevic and Karadzic defended what they did in Bosnia and in Kosovo. And when what happened in Bosnia is functionally identical to what we're seeing right now.
Also, she says it's horrific for individuals. So not the ethnotype that's being erased from the earth. No, not them, just the individuals. Okay, cool.
The government has done a number of things, imposed sanctions on some West Bank settlers' organisations. It's suspended some arms licences, but allowed others. It's called the Israeli-UK Ambassador to the Foreign Office.
Wow, she got a chauffeur-driven ride to a different bit of London, and then nothing happened.
She should be expelled from the fucking country. Send that absolute monster back from whence she came. She does not deserve. I do not want to see her fucking set foot in my country. I do not want her here. She's a fucking monster. She does not deserve to be here. Send her away.
Advocated for genocide many, many times at the head of the government, or the representative of a government doing said genocide. But of course, last week, or was it the week before, she was being feted at the Israeli Independence fucking thingamajig, hosted by Jimmy Carr. Thanks. Literally a British government minister stood on the stage and praised Israel at that event. So, that's where we're at. Evil, evil shit. That's why, okay, she's not the worst of them at all, but, Angela Rayner having to, not do her event in Scotland because she might get booed or whatever. Good. Fuck you. You're literally the Deputy Prime Minister of a genocide government. I don't fucking care. You're a ghoul. You're all fucking evil ghouls who are fine with this, apparently. Fuck's sake.
Is that the best we can do, Tim?
I remember watching you, Fiona, after the October attacks in Israel, that question time. It's one of the most charged question times I can ever remember. What happened to Israel on that day was beyond horrific. And I have always been a defender of Israel. It's what the Jewish people have suffered in history is unconscionable. But I can't understand anymore what Israel is trying to do.
Come on!
Come
What
on.
they've always done.
You're nearly there. You're almost there. Come on, Tim. Just take the extra step here, right? You can't understand why Israel is doing this. Because they want to take over all of the land.
I mean, he says, well, I've always defended Israel. So you've literally, they're a state created out of ethnic cleansing. And you're like, oh, well, I defended the ethnic cleansing when it was 1948 and 1967. But the ethnic cleansing now, I don't know why they're doing it. Same shit they've always done.
I have not got a clue what is going on here. I don't know what it could be anything. Maybe they're doing it for the lols. Who knows?
This country that's founded on a political principle of taking over other people's land is trying to take over other people's land. What? What the hell? How did this happen?
As all of the government ministers come out day by day with more and more ghoulish shit about how we're going to take all of the land. It could be anything. Maybe they just want a holiday excursion. Who knows?
What, holiday on the Trump Riviera?
Yeah. God almighty.
I think what I would do if someone hurt my mum or someone who I loved, and now Israel, you see families where a man or lost everyone in their family, generations wiped out.
And is there more that the government can do? Does it make any difference?
I honestly don't think there is, actually.
Well, considering they've done nothing, Literally doing anything would be... What do you mean? He's literally doing we've done absolutely nothing, we're all out of ideas. It's the Simpsons meme. Unbelievable.
To David Lammy's statement recently, I never thought I would, criticising Israel. But I'm afraid the hands...
Oh, God! Oh, they've caught John McDonnell disease. No! No! David Lammy, at the same time as being the Foreign Secretary okaying fucking flights of RAF planes to assist in reconnaissance of the genocide, wrote a strongly worded letter saying, tut, tut, tut. Jesus Christ. You know what? History deserves to damn this nation. Forever.
They say they've got nothing else that they can try. Trade embargoes, right? Or we won't negotiate a free trade deal. Stop sending them anything.
Yeah.
Stop letting their companies that support illegal settlements in the West Bank drill for oil in Rosebank. Again, tell the ambassador to go away. Pull our ambassador out of Israel. Go in completely non-verbal. Stop everything. Cut them off. Make them a pariah state.
Yeah, absolutely. Do fucking anything. Jesus Christ.
Britain has very little influence on Israel. Canada doesn't have much. France, it's America, and it's Trump. And I pray that Trump will finally act, because he's certainly been pressurised by Saudi Arabia and other people. Vance recently...
Oh yeah, Saudi Arabia, who are so cocked they've literally got a fucking friendship, nicey, kissy, kissy deal with Israel. Like, virtually the entire Arab world, and they're not really the problem here, it is America, obviously, but virtually the entire Arab world should also be damned in history for its betrayal of the Palestinian people.
Yep, I absolutely agree.
Fucking Egypt have shut that border for decades now. Fucking sick, evil bastards. How can you see your fellow Arabs and just be like, nah, fuck it, I don't care.
I mean, I don't know.
Open air prison, bitches. Don't care.
It's just not even on an Arab level, on a human level. Like, I don't think ethnicity really comes into it, but they are the nations that have the most power over Israel, because they're the ones that are their neighbours, and they've been allowing them to get away with murder. It's been absolutely horrific.
Cancelled a visit to Israel. I think what we're seeing in Gaza at the moment is one of the greatest crimes against humanity imaginable. And we have to do more, but ultimately it will be the White House that moves this, or if anything's going to change.
Irony, of course, is that Trump is actually probably doing more to stop the conflict than Biden was.
Well, I mean, that's going to set Maria off in chat. Thank you for that.
I mean, it's true. Steve Witkoff is negotiating with Hamas right now.
No, I know.
Right now, Steve Witkoff is doing more than fucking the Biden administration did at all. Like, they literally were people, they were whistleblowers from the Biden administration, specifically saying, we have no policy on Israel, we just do what the Israelis tell us to do.
Yeah, pretty pathetic.
Like, it's crazy. I hate that I have to admit this, because unlike a lot of people who's seen Trump as like a disruptor who's disrupting the global order, right? I'm just like, not like this. I don't like disruptors disrupting the global order like this, and things he's doing elsewhere are all terrible. But I have to face facts, right? He's at least they secured the first ceasefire when they had that however long ceasefire when people returned to their homes, even in North Gaza, in parts, right at the start, which was negotiated by Steve Witkoff, and he's trying again, like going through the back. They're going behind the backs of Benjamin Netanyahu to negotiate directly with Hamas, which is crazy.
But like, when you've literally got fucking the dude who starts off with, I've always been a supporter of Israel, saying this is the greatest human rights crime ever, or something, like, come on. Come the fuck up. Like, we can't do anything. Also, I'm not accepting this bullshit of like, well, technically we don't have absolutely all the power, which of course we don't. It is the Americans that can stop this. Even if we come out and like join Hamas, if we become an entire nation of Doncaster, right, it wouldn't matter. Israel wouldn't fucking do anything about that. It's about America, right? But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do absolutely anything. We can recognise the state of Palestine, first and foremost, right? We can stop sending them arms. We can stop doing fucking reconnaissance flights. We can stop bitching out and abstaining at the UN just because America are going to vote against it, so we're going to bitch out. And rather than doing the thing that we want to do, which is to vote to allow Israel to kill every Arab in the world, apparently. No, we're just going to abstain instead, so that we don't look quite as bad.
On a moral level, actually in a geopolitical level, right? How much damage are we doing to our standing in the world, right? It shames Britain. Of course, we've done many bad things in our period of colonization, right? But even if you take like modern history of Britain, it is deeply damning and shameful for the international respect that our country used to command. That countries that previously saw us as somebody who they could do business and want to have relationships with will now see us as the enablers of genocide, right? At the very least, for our own sense of the way for even just on the basic level of our own sense of morality, we should not be engaging in this, and for our own self-preservation as a country that wants to be an international country in this world, which we should be. We should want global Britain. We should want to do deals with people around the world from loads of different backgrounds. And if they see us as facilitators of genocide, they will never do those deals again. We will never be seen as people to be on the right side of history. And fundamentally, that's why we need to take every measure that we can, even if it's futile in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Also, just on a basic, just moral level, as a nation, do we not want to be, not even to be seen, just to feel ourselves to be actually moral? Is that not a thing we care about? We've given up on that now. It's just, political expedience, who cares? Is that all we are? Fucking tragic.
So Heidi, is there more that the government can do? I mean, for example, we formally paused a free trade agreement negotiation with Israel, but then only last week you had Lord Austin, who's our Israel trade envoy, going to...
Who, by the way, if he got arse cancer, I would laugh. What an evil little bastard he is. Fuck off, mate.
Israel saying, I'm here to meet businesses and officials and promote trade with the UK. I mean, which is it?
So we have suspended those negotiations with...
No, you have not. Again, you force me. You force me, Heidi, to have to go to Twitter again on this one. If indeed we have suspended talks on trade agreements and so on and so forth, why was this little fucking goblin in Haifa this week? Boom, there he is. Labour Lord Austin, right? A full day in the UK trade envoy to Israel, visiting the cutting-edge scanning blah, 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 in Haifa Bayport, in Haifa Nazareth light rail project.
Witnessing British-Israeli cooperation. We should not be collaborating and cooperating with a country committing genocide. Yep. Basic shit.
What is our... I mean, firstly, he shouldn't be in politics, but why is our trade envoy to Israel, in Israel, doing trade envoy shit if we're not doing trade deals with them? What is he just on holiday?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Fucking hell. We literally couldn't even tut appropriately.
Literally, absolutely right. Red balloon, as you say. I don't know how politicians can go to fucking sleep at night. I just don't know how they do it.
Yeah, no, I don't know either. And this is what I mean. The Westminster machine stamps the humanity over, because I'm sure Heidi Alexander wasn't always this soulless ghoul. I'm sure she had something, but look, there's no light behind those eyes anymore.
Nope.
She's become one of the Borg.
With Israel about a free trade agreement, because we can't deal with the Netanyahu government in a positive way when they're wreaking such appalling destruction and devastation.
So why did Lord...
Also, why are we able to successfully do fucking rail projects in Israel but not here?
Just like doing council houses in Kigali.
Yeah, no, fucking hell. We can build fucking railways for Haifa but not for Huddersfield. Brilliant. Fucking hell.
Austin go there last week to promote trade.
My understanding was that it was a long-standing commitment, a specific visit to the port of Haifa. This wasn't part of the trade negotiations.
I don't care.
He was there to promote trade, in his own words.
Look,
I don't fucking care. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's there. He's there to promote trade. I'm sorry, we didn't even tut. We didn't even do it.
Exactly. Although apparently Northern Powerhouse Rail was referring to the north of Israel.
That's fair. You know what? You can't argue with that. That's true. Too much investment in the south of Israel. Mad.
Visit, a low-key visit, and it was not part of any...
Low-key? He did have a photo shoot on the pier there. Like, didn't seem that low-key to me. He wasn't hiding in the shadows.
Formal negotiations around free trade, because we've suspended that. We have also suspended some of those arms exports to Israel. We have issued...
Whilst selling them record numbers of arms since you've been in government. Brilliant.
Yeah, literally.
But we did stop six arms exports, were mainly like nuts and bolts or something that they can get from anywhere. Fucking Jesus.
Sanctions against individuals and organisations who are perpetrating or supporting violence in the West Bank.
No, you're not. You're literally doing trade deals with the fucking Israeli government, who are doing violence and settlement in the West Bank. They're literally the Israeli government announced an increase, a massive increase in settlements in the West Bank, and the UK government is not a peep, nothing.
I saw the news today of the Israeli government authorising new settlements in the West Bank. We should be clear that settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories are illegal under international law. They're not.
Okay, so they're breaking international law. So you're going to stop selling them weapons then, right?
It's only in a limited and specific way, Kev.
Oh, yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Permitted. So we oppose that, and I fear that it is deliberately placing an obstacle in the path to finding a two-state solution.
But just briefly,
I mean, it is true. It is deliberately doing that, but like, there's no Palestinian state. There's not like you can't have a two-state solution when all of their land is stolen. What do you mean? Like literally, it's already impossible because they've got the fucking all of those embassies in Jerusalem now. So you can't have a contiguous fucking state with East Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine. So your two-state solution is impossible. You're selling us a pop at this stage. It's nothing. Jesus Christ.
Two-state solution is just a Zionist cope at this point, right? I understand why they support the idea, but it's completely unworkable. It's not happening. It's never happening. It's never fucking happening, right?
Well, exactly. They're working on the paradigm of like 1995 or something. Like it's moved on since then. Zionism has metastasized into something else on top now.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is that there's a really great article by Gideon Levy talking about George Habash, right, who was the founder of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, who rejected the Oslo Accords and said that they would never be able to bargain with the Zionist entity because they would refuse to bargain in good faith and they would never actually acquiesce to Palestinians having their own state because they don't believe Palestinians are a thing, right? So we have to engage in military action. That's also what he said. I'm not saying that it was a good thing that he said. And Gideon Levy said, well, he was right. They tried the negotiation. Fatah were in charge of the PA. They were in charge of negotiations under Arafat. They made concessions on things like Area C to try and at least have a roadmap to a Palestinian state. And Israel, therefore, from there, became a roadblock. They wanted more territory. They wanted more land. They wanted to keep all of Jerusalem. Like, it was never going to be a workable situation. And in reality, what was happening now was inevitable.
Well, the last Israeli Prime Minister who actually tried any kind of deal, however legitimately or otherwise, was killed. And people who killed him are in government now.
Yep.
Literally, we have like a terrorist state. That is what this is.
We have government ministers with terrorist pictures hanging up in their fucking offices.
Yeah. But, you know, if you say from the river to the sea, you're a terrorist.
Taking on board what Tim says about the strength of Donald Trump when it comes to negotiating with Israel versus our own, do you think there's more the government can do?
We need to continue to work with our international partners to bring an end to this latest military offensive and to get humanitarian aid in.
It's not good enough. Also, just to be clear, Heidi, I think in 2014 you actually voted to recognise Palestine as a state. I mean, you know, Heidi has been on this for a long time, but I do think that
that was back when she was human. She's now just a
husk.
Yeah, Westminster minister droid. That's all she is.
There are many things that the government could do For example, there are these F-35 jets. David Lammy was in the Commons just a couple of weeks ago saying, well, we can't stop the licenses on those because we sell components and that would disrupt global supply chains. Like, can you believe we're talking about global supply chains when there's this many thousands and thousands of children that are dying?
Yeah, that's one thing. Look at these crusty old wankers not clapping that. God, there are some people in this country who are just despicable.
Yeah, I mean, I fail to see how I can live in a country with some of the people that live here, honestly.
Amazing.
Barak, who's the former Prime Minister of Israel, was in the Financial Times over the weekend, and he was talking about how the war is now a project for Netanyahu and about how, you know, they've gone a lot further than they ever should have done. And that is a position that is now softer than where our Labour Prime Minister is. And as someone who's covered Labour politics for going on 10 years and been...
Yeah, outflanked to the left by Ehud Barak. Love her. Fucking hell.
With these ministers to Palestine meetings and talking about a two-state solution for a decade, I cannot believe this is where we are.
David?
I think certainly when we
what
look
about
at
this business of recognising Palestine as a state? I mean, France and other countries are encouraging the UK to do that. Others say, look, it's largely symbolic.
Well, it is largely symbolic in a sense, but if you do actually support two states, surely you have to recognise two states. No? Well, that would make sense to me.
It would make sense.
What's the point? What's your feeling? Is that something we should be doing?
So I think we need to look the path to a long-term peace in Gaza and in Palestine more broadly. I think it's very clear that that path is going to require a change of leadership in Gaza, in Palestine, and probably, I think in the view of many of my Jewish constituents, and there are a lot of them, a change in Israel as well.
Well, hang a minute.
Absolutely support.
What the fuck do your Jewish constituents have to do with fucking anything?
Yeah.
What are the people? What the fuck constituency do this guy represent? Hang on a minute.
Well, it doesn't matter, because ultimately, people who are not Jewish are allowed to have an opinion on this, and that should be reflected in the government. And secondly, it's got nothing to do with Jews.
Yeah, he's Ruislip. So he's the MP for Ruislip. If they're Jewish people who live in Ruislip, then what the fuck do they have to do with Israel? Nothing, other than the fact that Israel is the Jewish state, and therefore, apparently, when it comes to a country the other side of the world, we take an ethnic group that happens to share an ethnicity with the country committing genocide as if they're the people whose opinions matter. Like, yes, it's just the dual loyalty trope in reverse. Like,
yeah, exactly. No, this is positive racism.
Like their opinion on this is just as relevant as any other British citizen, which is that what does our country have in relationship to what's happening in Gaza? That's it. Just because they're Jewish doesn't make any fucking difference.
No.
The right of Israel to defend itself, and as Tim described, the act that took place on October...
It is not defending itself by building settlements in the West Bank. It is not defending itself by bombing hospitals and schools and food stations and making people wait outside in queues in the baking sun.
I mean, they do have one way of defending themselves in this manner, and this is what the person who was interviewed, I believe it was on Sky News or Channel 4, said, which is that you have to kill the children because they would become Palestinians, essentially.
Yeah, which is literally what the Nazis said. Literally did. Well, they said there was a famous discussion relayed in one of these, after the war generals books about what was it? No, it was in it was secretly recorded after the war in a Nazi prison, right? So you had these two generals who were discussing this, and they said, Hitler went too far by killing the children, and the bloke literally said, why would we leave the children? Because they're just going to become adult Jews. Why would we? And he said something like, why would we allow them to take their revenge upon our children? So they knew what they were doing was bad, but you can't allow the children to become adults, which is literally what the Israeli state are now doing. They're literally doing Nazi shit right now.
October the 7th was the most appalling act of barbarism. But there are innocents here. There are the hostages who are being held by Hamas who need to be released.
Who have already agreed to several deals to release them, and the Israeli government have turned those deals down because it wasn't about that, and you know that, and you're a liar.
And also, I would like to counteract this claim that October the 7th was the most barbaric action ever. It was a barbaric action. That is true. It absolutely was. They attacked civilians in broad daylight. It was terrible. The more barbaric action is what Israel have done since, you know? I have to say, right, unless you want to do some Bassem Youssef maths on this one about the
Sons of
equivalence...
bitches!
Yeah, unless you want to equivocate between certain numbers of Palestinian lives worth an Israeli life, there were 800 civilians killed on October the 7th, and we have had, 40,000 civilians potentially killed in Gaza since that happened, you know?
Yeah. Unbelievable.
And then there are the people of Gaza, who in effect are hostages who are caught in a crossfire between Hamas and the Israeli Defense Force. The offer which apparently has been made by the United States to broker a longer-term peace deal offers some hope, in particular, at getting aid into those territories. But as Heidi's described, a decision to pursue more illegal settlements risks putting further obstacles in the way of that path to peace. But we need to make sure that we use our diplomatic efforts. And I have to say, I disagree a bit with Ava on the point about the F-35s. They are being used in Israel. They're also being used to stop Houthi rebels attacking British shipping. So these are part of that international effort that is important in our...
So he's literally saying, no, the supply chain is more important than these people's lives. Yeah.
You know what's really great? If the genocide stops, we don't have to send F-35s over to Yemen. It's really simple.
Yeah. Also, Yemen wouldn't be a fucking failed state if we hadn't armed the Saudis to do a genocide in Yemen.
And it was their government that started it.
Yeah. Thank you, Graham Turner, who says thank you, Kev. Well, thank you.
No, thank you.
Interest, not just about local interests, but we need that longer-term path to peace to address this.
And Jess, I should say that there are reports tonight, or reports in Israel at any rate, that Benjamin Netanyahu has accepted a US brokered ceasefire deal.
Oh, cool. So now the war's over, he can leave office and face those legal charges, right?
Of course that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I definitely believe that, because I think he's a serious man who isn't just a horrific dictator hollowing out any semblance of the Israeli state. No, it's fine, it's fine.
Hamas, at the time of recording this programme, had not yet to respond, and that would release, according to these reports, release 10 hostages, and UN humanitarian aid would go in. We remain to see whether that will happen. Are sanctions the best we can do when it comes to the situation in Gaza? Should we be doing more?
No, we can absolutely do more, and I think Ben was alluding...
You know how we can do more? No, let's not, no.
...to that actually the Liberal Democrats have been calling for sanctions specifically on Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, who are the far-right Israeli ministers who
No, again, I do have to stop you there. There's no such thing as a not far-right Israeli minister. If you're in that government, you don't get to be like, well, I'm technically not Smotrich. I don't care. I don't get, like, you were all... Like, name me an Israeli minister who hasn't said some crazy-ass genocidal shit in the last 18 months.
Like, at least not in this government, right?
Yeah,
like, you
exactly.
you can critique the liberal Zionism of the opposition parties, and I do frequently, but whilst there is no... I will never accept the framing that Netanyahu and Likud are the problem.
Yeah.
Zionism is the problem, right? And liberal Zionism at that. There is a level above that Likud and Otzma Yehudit and religious Zionism have above the other parties like the Democrats and Yesh Atid, right? I mean, the leader of Yesh Atid literally accused Netanyahu of killing babies, so...
Yeah. And again, like, I hate to have to go back to it because it's not necessarily entirely relevant, but they literally had a debate in the Knesset about the rights and wrongs of, like, whether they should be able to rape Palestinian prisoners.
Yep.
And they would like, and that was just normal. That this is the state that country is in. This isn't just even like, if you look at all the statistics, like there is a significant percentage of Israeli society that wants to literally obliterate Gaza. They don't want it to exist anymore.
80% of Israelis, when surveyed, favoured ethnic cleansing.
Like there's
and half of them didn't just want to ethnically cleanse Gaza and the West Bank, they wanted to ethnically cleanse Israel as well.
Yeah, of course they do. This is ethno-nationalism. This is where it ends up. It's a purity spiral. They'll be ethnically cleansing other Jewish people from the place as well. You know, the Ethiopian ones for a start off, obviously, because they're brown. But then you'll maybe get, well, maybe the Hasidic ones or something, you know? Some of them have campaigned against the genocide, so maybe they need to be done away with. Like this happens in every ethno-state. I hate to be just going back to the Nazis all the time, but they did this. I mean, they literally started out by killing Germans, the disabled ones. You know?
Mm.
This is where it always fucking ends up, because it's an evil, twisted ideology.
Are supporting settlements in the West Bank. We've been calling for that coming up to 2 years.
But Ben is also saying, is sanctions the best we can do? Is there anything else
No, we can also formally recognise Palestine as a state, and that's something that should have happened a long time ago.
Jesus Christ, the Lib Dems are the radicals of Parliament now.
I mean, to be fair, their foreign affairs spokesperson is literally Palestinian.
Wow. Okay.
So they actually have a some skin in the game that clearly plenty of members of the Labour Party
Well,
don't have.
no, they were, but apparently the Israelis have just occupied their seat. They were promised it 5,000 years ago, so that now they're just
Wow. Looks like the Liberal Democrats aren't winning here.
And I totally agree with Ada when she says that I understand when Keir Starmer stands up in the Commons and says it's complicated, there's a supply chain. Disentangle that supply chain so that those parts are not going to
just fuck the supply chain. Don't care.
Yeah,
don't care.
Yeah, if you have to ground a few planes for a few weeks, fine.
Oh, the Western military apparatus might be 0.000% as destructive as before. Don't give a shit. Don't give a shit.
Literally don't give a fuck. No, that's fine. Won't someone think of the planes?
My audience, we've only got a minute or so. Yes, the woman in the pink shirt.
Heidi, I feel such a sense of betrayal from the Labour Party. I would never vote Tory, I would never vote UKIP, and I used to vote Labour. Why are you still friends with Israel, an apartheid state? And why is the Labour Party still sending components of F-35 weapons to Israel that are killing, targeting babies, children, hospitals, schools? Enough of this rhetoric about being anti-Semitic if you support Palestinian babies and
I didn't realise this was a cookery show.
True.
Let Heidi answer.
I just want to ask Tim something as well.
Well, hang on, because I've only got about 30 seconds left, so I'm going to let Heidi answer. Forgive
and then
me.
Please,
if I have time, but I must let Heidi answer that.
We're not sending F-35 components directly
you are
to
still
Israel.
sending components of F-35
as much as every single
weapons.
person
Yes,
in this room,
you have
I want to see
you have reduced weapons
sustainable
by
peace
only
in Gaza.
8% to Israel. By 8%.
I hear your passion. I must let her answer.
I find it as sickening and as harrowing as every single person in this audience seeing those images on television of children wandering around rubble who are never going to find...
Yeah, do something. If it's harrowing, do anything to stop it.
I love this lady. She's fucking base as fuck. I will point out, right? I will point out. It's enough. Like I don't want to go fucking normal Finkelstein and say I will not be browbeaten by the tears, but you can stop you can weep on Question Time all you want, Heidi, right? You can weep all you want. In the 1990s, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Srebrenica was surrounded by the army of the Serb Republic, led by Ratko Mladic and sent there by Radovan Karadzic. And they stopped all food. Women, children, babies were killed in one of the only genocides recognized in Europe since 1945. And when we learned of that, when the West learned what was happening, a NATO detachment of military personnel went into Bosnia to stop the genocide. If we can do it in Bosnia, why the fuck can we not do it for Palestinians? Why the fuck can we not do it for Palestinians if we can do it for Bosnians?
Exactly, yeah. Absolutely. I will go full Norman Finkelstein and just start referring to her as Mr. Borelli, though. Just because that would be funny.
And their parents and who are being starved to death. That is why we have got to find a way of bringing a...
See, she really means it because there's a slight warble in the throat now. Like, shut the fuck up, man. Save your crocodile tears and do anything about it, you prick. You sit in cabinet, cry in front of fucking Starmer.
a sustainable solution to the region, a lasting peace, and getting significant humanitarian aid in, because none of us want to wake up tomorrow and see those scenes on our television screens. And I think every single one of us on that panel would agree with that sentiment.
Okay. Listen, we will come back to the subject of Gaza. There is no question about that. We've covered it many times and we will cover it again. And I hear your passion about this subject, and everyone on the panel understands that you feel very strongly about it.
Why is it always the based ones who get 30 seconds at the end?
It's true. It's true. I want to see.
We listen to some boomer wanker who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. We have some dickhead going on about like advocating for genocide in the fucking NHS ad nauseum, and this woman, the one person with a good point. We can't let you talk. No, we've got to let this dickhead play act for a bit.
I mean, just in general, I wish so people are pointing out that no one brings up the flights from RAF Criterion question.
Yeah.
That needs to get mentioned. I just want people to make the Bosnia comparison, because it's just so nakedly obvious where priorities lie when it comes to Western interventionism. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. When it happens on our doorstep, we're willing to go in and stop it. We literally sent the military in, a coalition of military forces in to stop the Serb Republic's genocide of the Bosnians, you know? We can do the same. We can do the same now.
Because, well, the thing is, they were kind of white. So they were, like with the Ukrainians, they're kind of white, right? Like
Well,
we can sort of grandfather them into the white people club, so they're worth saving, whereas the Palestinians are definitely brown.
Well, I mean, I don't even think it's necessarily that. It's that during the Bosnian genocide, the Serb Republic were our enemy. They were the remnants of communist Yugoslavia, right?
Yeah.
They were our enemy. And so we wanted to do the thing that made us be geopolitically to be seen on the forces of good. Whereas Israel are our ally, so it can't be seen to undermine them in the international stage, and that's why NATO will do nothing, because NATO isn't there to be an international peacekeeping force. It never should have been. It was a defensive alliance anyway. But even when it does intervene, it's only for Western interests.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Again, the comparison could not be more clear between the way in which Western leaders deal with the actions of Russia in Ukraine and the way they would deal with Israeli actions in Palestine. The slightest transgression is quite rightly called out when Putin does it in, Odessa or Kharkov or wherever, whereas Israel just gets a blank check, carte blanche, to do whatever the fuck it wants. And it's never called out. Like, how quickly were they calling it genocide when Russia were doing it? And none of them will say genocide. Because it's Israel and they're our friends, for some fucking reason. Anyway, enough of this nonsense.
Let's have a look at who is live. I've been suggested to go into Suris in chat from somebody.
Yeah, Suris is alright.
Let's see who else we've got. It doesn't seem like there's many people live at the moment. I'm happy to go into Suris if everyone else is, but
the problem with my YouTube is I've only got the Young Turks or an NBA channel I follow, so neither of those.
Well, actually, I think Suris is gaming, not talking politics, so I think maybe we're trying to go find some politics way. Raptor Blue, what's Raptor Blue up to? Raptor Blue is also gaming. We can go into the Noisy Immigrant.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
It's the smaller channel. We can boost our Kiwi friends. Not many Kiwis.
Yeah.
Who do
Well, the problem is they're small and flightless, and then cats eat them. And that's the same for the people as well.
So everyone go and follow KF Local 1875 over on Twitch, and of course subscribe to him on YouTube at Ploppy111. Do the thing, I command you.
Everyone go and follow No Justice MTG and all of the mother flipping platforms.
And remember, we both have Patreon. We both have Patreon,
we
separate
do
monthly
indeed.
donations. Patreon.com/NoJusticeMTG for me. I would very much appreciate an increase in my Patreon subscriptions. If you can afford to, if you can't afford to, just interacting is good.
Indeed. Yeah, and I'll be back tomorrow on my own because Christie's at a conference, a boring, shitty conference in somewhere, Bristol. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So I'll be on my own. But are you on tomorrow? I don't know.
Since we covered the Zach Polanski stuff tonight, I will take tomorrow off.
Fair dues. So I've got you all to myself. A captive audience. You don't have a choice. You have to listen.
And as always, stay safe and free Palestine.
Indeed, free Palestine. Bye.
Bye bye.